Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Ni, the World-Destroying Poisonous Milk. Chapter 51. At this time, in the audience, a middle-aged man wearing a golden robe walked over. When the three examiners in charge of the assessment saw this, they immediately stood up and said respectfully, "Mr. Yi, this is the director of the unified examination sent by the Imperial Academy to Shan Province this time. He is also a very famous and powerful person in the Empire. He is the level 64 professional sword soul master and the cold-faced god Yi Yun." Yi Yun nodded lightly, then found a random chair and sat down. He looked at the stage with interest. "I heard that there are many good seedlings in Shan Province this year. I came here to take a look today." An examiner next to him said. A total of 139,784 candidates took part in the unified examination in Shan Province this time. After fierce competition, the top 128 were shortlisted, a total of 354 students, and the talent level above B level reached 94%. In addition, among the eliminated students, there are more than 50 with B level or above talents. Yi Yun couldn't help but nod. Yes, it seems that the quality of this batch of students is indeed very high. He looked towards the stage, and the examiner next to him handed over the candidate's information with a wink. Yi Yun glanced at it and his eyes narrowed when he saw He Chen's message. S-level talent, the examiner next to me said. Yes, this is the only S-level talented student in Shan Province. Unfortunately, it is an auxiliary occupation. If it is the main occupation, he will definitely have a place in the Great Sha Empire in the future. Yeah, it's such a pity. After all, he's just a support person. No matter how talented he is, he can't make a difference. Such a high talent has not appeared in Shan Province for many years. Several examiners shook their heads and sighed. Yi Yun shook his head. Not necessarily, he said calmly. You don't understand the power of S-class at all. I think there is no suspense in this battle. Guess how long it will take for this team to win. The three examiners looked at each other. Their main battle profession only has C-level talents, while the opposite main battle profession has A-level talents. I think this battle will be very difficult. Even if we can win, it will probably take more than 20 minutes. I think 10 minutes is enough. I've also heard that there are only 1 or 2 S-class ones in the entire empire a year. Even if they are auxiliary, they must have strong attack methods. I think they may not win. Yi Yun was a little disappointed. These people were too short-sighted. The difference between S-level and A-level talents is not at all the same as that between A-level and B-level talents. But go up to at least 3 more levels. The S-class is already a qualitative change. Besides, Yi Yun also noticed that He Chen not only had a mutated profession, but was also an unheard-of master of hell. If it is a mutated profession that has become weaker, there will be no S-level talents at all, indicating that it is an enhanced mutated profession. He was looking forward to it, wanting to see how powerful this profession was, coupled with S-level talent. Just watch, the battle will be over within 3 minutes. Yi Yun made a loud statement, attracting frequent glances from the three examiners. However, even Yi Yun didn't know that He Chen was not an S-level talent at all, but an SSS-level talent. At this moment, on the stage, the two teams were ready. As the countdown ended, Ning Shanshan rushed forward quickly, followed closely by the two assistants, who continued to apply various increasing buffs to Ning Shanshan. On He Chen's side, Shui Yi and Gao Cheng retreated directly to He Chen. This scene not only puzzled the three examiners, but also made Yi Yun frown. One side is as powerful as a rainbow. Is one party timid? Did he just make a mistake? However, the next moment, something happened that shocked Yi Yun. The entire arena became dark in an instant, with billowing black energy covering it, and pairs of scarlet eyes appeared in the black energy. Immediately afterwards, several muffled sounds came from the black air, and Ning Shanshan and the other three were thrown out, hit the protective shield outside the ring, and fainted. On the large screen next to it, the display ends. Fighting time, 3 seconds. Withdrawing the domain, He Chen shook his head slightly. I originally thought I could survive 2 rounds, but it ended with just 1 charge from the ghost monster group. Very boring. Off stage, there was silence for a full 2 minutes before the three examiners came to their senses. Is this the end? Isn't this too fast? That team is the main battle profession with A-level talents, and they were defeated in a single encounter. Is this a professional with S-level talent? Isn't it too perverted? Even Yi Yun was stunned at this moment and did not hide his shock at all. He knew that S-level talent was very strong, but he didn't expect that it could be so ridiculously strong. This was beyond his knowledge. Is there any problem with the data? Yi Yun said in a deep voice. The three examiners nodded in unison. No problem, this game is fair and just. That's good. Yi Yun turned around and left, walking anxiously. He wanted to report the news to the Imperial Academy as soon as possible. This time, a peerless monster appeared in the examination area of Shan Province. In the next two games, there was still no suspense. He Chen's team successfully advanced to the top 16. There was a 2-hour break at noon. Shui Yi said she wanted to treat her to a party to celebrate, but He Chen refused. Back in the lounge, He Chen began to sit cross-legged and meditate to restore his mental strength. On the other side, Lu Yunfei successfully advanced to the top 16 after a difficult battle, while Zhao Tianyu stopped in the top 32 and was brushed off, scoring only 30 points. Walking out of the examination room, Lu Yunfei couldn't hide her excitement. Now there are only 16 teams left. She is likely to face He Chen in the next game. Although the results of the competition have not yet come out, she has a strong intuition that He Chen must have advanced. As she expected, soon, a notice was received on the electronic hand card. Above is the list of 16 teams that have advanced, and He Chen is indeed among them. In addition, there is also a match schedule for the afternoon games. Lu Yunfei took a look and saw that the other team she was going to face was the main battle professional Soul Thorn, number 049, named Muchen. The other two assistants are a stone man and a singer. Stone man, an auxiliary profession, has the natural skill of petrification. It can petrify itself and teammates, increasing the defense by 130%. It can also petrify the target and reduce the movement speed by 40%. This is an extremely tricky support profession. Songstress, auxiliary profession, native skill soul singing, releasing skills can increase the mental power of teammates, and has a chance to interrupt the target's skills and put the target into a state of chaos. It's also a bit difficult. Lu Yunfei's two assistants are both pure buff types and also have healing skills, but they are all used on friendly players and cannot interfere with the enemy. Comparing the two sides, she seemed to be at a disadvantage, but Lu Yunfei didn't care. She paid more attention to the opponent's main battle profession. To be precise, that's the name. Mu Chen. Does it sound familiar? Lu Yunfei suddenly remembered. Didn't Mu Donggulan, the president of Donggulan Guild, have a son named Muchen? It is said that Mu Donggulan sent his son to Longcheng to study a long time ago, but he didn't expect to meet him today. The Donggulan Guild fell apart, and the Lu family also played a part in it. Now that the two are facing each other, the battle between them is no longer just about the competition. Okay, let's let our subordinates see the real chapter. Lu Yunfei said secretly. Captain, someone is looking for you. Shui Yi knocked on the door of the lounge. He Chen opened his eyes, and it was Zhao Tianyu who came. What's wrong? Zhao Tianyu looked a little anxious. Brother Chen, something happened to Lu Yunfei. Huh, what's wrong? Candidates are protected by hand cards when competing. Damage exceeding a certain limit will activate hand cards. In this case, even if they suffer some injuries, it will not be a serious problem. Oh, I can't tell. Brother Chen, come over and have a look. Zhao Tianyu couldn't tell. He Chen nodded and followed Zhao Tianyu to the arena where the competition had just ended. Lu Yunfei was half lying on a chair, her eyes closed tightly, and there was a look of pain on her face. Several people around her seemed helpless, including Guo Xiaoxiao. He Chen walked over and said, "What's wrong?" Guo Xiaoxiao was very surprised to see He Chen. Brother Chen, are you here? He Chen sat across from Lu Yunfei. After a closer look, he discovered that Lu Yunfei had an abnormal flush on his face, a layer of sweat on his forehead, and looked painful. Guo Xiaoxiao said, Sister Lu just fought with another team. The main battle occupation of that team was soul assault. The attack method was too weird, and Sister Lu accidentally got hit. He Chen was a little strange. Are the cards in your hand not inspiring? Inspired. Guo Xiaoxiao sighed. Lu Yunfei did not fall down in the ring, but because she inspired her hand, she was judged to have lost. She must have felt very uncomfortable. It's an attack against the soul. This attack doesn't feel anything at all at first and is almost imperceptible, but it can cause continuous damage to the soul. By the time Sister Lu notices it, it's too late to react. The damage to the soul explodes, directly activating the hand. Although most of the damage was blocked by the cards in my hand, I still suffered some injuries. He Chen nodded. He understood. That soul thorn should also be a rare level profession. Attacks on the soul have always been the biggest headache for all professionals. Because this kind of damage is like a tarsal maggot, there is no way to defend it, you can only bear it. The higher the soul power value, the stronger the resistance. In addition to being difficult to defend, there is also an extremely terrifying point, that is, the injuries caused by soul damage are difficult to recover from. Unless you find a professional with the ability to heal soul injuries, you can only recover slowly over a long period of time. Before recovery, not only would his strength be greatly affected, but he would also intermittently feel severe pain from deep within his soul. In other words, Lu Yunfei's unified examination is likely to stop here. We can only go to the examiners. Maybe they will be able to find a solution. Everyone sighed. That was all they could do. Several people were about to carry Lu Yunfei away when an abnormal young man with a sinister face, thin body and pale face walked towards them. Guo Xiaoxiao was a little nervous and whispered, "Brother Chen, it's him, Sister Lu was injured by him." Oh, He Chen also looked at this young man. The sinister young man did not pay attention to Lu Yunfei, but instead came to He Chen. He Chen, right, my name is Muchen, He Chen said calmly. Do we know each other? Muchen laughed ferociously. You don't know me, but I know you. While my father was away, my Dongolin guild was swallowed up by you, and you, He Chen, are the culprit. So he's from Dongolin guild. He Chen also smiled, and it seemed that he was really coming for him. Muchen glanced at Lu Yunfei, who had a painful expression next to him, and smiled evilly. Have you seen He Chen? Anyone who attacks our Dongolin guild will have a bad end. Lu Yunfei is just the first one, and you will be next. Don't let me down. You must advance. I can't wait to let you taste the pain of burning your soul. Don't worry, this is just the beginning. After the unified examination is over, you have to run quickly, otherwise you will fall into my hands. I will let you experience the most extreme torture in the world. When Muchen finally finished speaking, He Chen said impatiently, You're such a long sissy, you're so arrogant in front of me, you don't have the ability yet, wait until your father comes out of the abyss. Muchen's expression froze and he was shaking with anger. How dare He Chen call him a sissy? In his life, he hated people calling him a sissy. Anyone who said these two words would be burned alive by him with soul flames. Okay, very good, He Chen, you really have the guts, right? I'm waiting for you. Muchen gritted his teeth and finished speaking, turned around and left. It wasn't until Muchen walked away that Zhao Tianyu hugged his belly and laughed. He gave a thumbs up to He Chen. It's me, Brother Chen, who pays back. I usually don't speak, but when I speak, I hit the point directly. This is called hitting a snake 7 inches away. At this time, He Chen looked at Muchen walking away and was thinking about one thing. I heard that there is an upper limit to the damage that electronic hand cards can withstand. What if this limit is exceeded? He Chen's eyes were cold and he had already put Muchen on the death list. Since the other party took the initiative to send it to his door, he had no reason not to accept the head. Soon, the competition started, and as expected, He Chen entered the top 8 again. The electronic hand card also received a notice from the exam organizing committee, announcing the promotion list. He Chen took a look and found that his opponent in the next match was none other than Muchen. Not far away, Muchen looked towards He Chen, grinning with a sinister smile. He Chen shook his head slightly. Just let him be arrogant for a while, wait until he gets on the ring, and see if he can still laugh. Candidates participating in the competition, please come to the stage. The electronic sound resounded throughout the examination room, making the bustling examination room much quieter. Many failed candidates gathered here, filling the auditorium with water. Although they failed, they were not discouraged, but seized the opportunity to learn from the fighting methods and experiences of other strong teams. The teams that can enter the top 8 are all truly strong. This year, the students admitted by top universities in the Shan provincial examination area are basically born from these people. He Chen led Shui Yi and Gao Chang onto the ring. On the opposite side, Muchen grinned, stretched out a finger, and scratched in front of his neck. He mouthed, "He Chen, you are dead." Shui Yi and Gao Chang were a little scared and hid behind He Chen before the battle started, especially Gao Chang. Even though he was tall, he was a pure healing assistant and could not help at all in combat. Not too busy. Muchen is famous for his fierce reputation. In the previous competition, many of the students who fought against Muchen had their souls hurt and were unable to participate in the next competition. They voluntarily quit. He is a shaman and witch doctor. If Muchen targets him, he may lose his career. His path is cut off. Fortunately, Muchen didn't pay attention to him at all. An examiner wearing a black robe came to the ring. After confirming that both parties were ready, he waved his hand and a huge defensive shield rose up to cover the ring. At the same time, in order to let other students see it more clearly, images of the arena were also played on the large screens on both sides. As the countdown ended, Muchen took the lead and rushed towards He Chen. Before they arrived, a soft rain-like touch fell on He Chen and the others. Muchen's arrogant laughter came from the ring. He Chen, the soul rain will corrode your soul and turn you into an idiot. Muchen's soul rain is just a cover. The real attack is the soul fire hidden in the soul rain, which moistens things silently and makes you unaware of it at all. When you confront Muchen and interrupt his release of soul rain, you fall victim to his trick. When the soul fire accumulates to a certain level, it will explode instantly, causing permanent damage. It was here that Lu Yunfei capsized in the ditch. Seeing He Chen standing motionless, Muchen's smile gradually became wanton. He seemed to have seen He Chen's soul being burned and wailing in pain. However, when he rushed to He Chen, he was immediately confused. In just a blink of an eye, He Chen disappeared without a trace. Then, He Chen's voice came from far away. Too slow. Only then did he realize that He Chen's appearance at the edge of the ring was beyond the range of his skills. Muchen raised his eyebrows. So fast. His face darkened. The distance was too far now and he couldn't attack He Chen at all, so he stood there with a wild smile on his face and said, "Ha ha, do you know how to hide? It seems that your profession should not be called the Lord of Hell. It is more appropriate to call him the Rat Leader." In response to Muchen's ridicule, He Chen's expression did not change at all and remained very calm. "It seems that speed is your weakness, but it doesn't matter, I will let you get what you want." After saying that, He Chen actually approached Muchen step by step. Muchen was slightly startled. He really wanted to use Ji Zhang to let He Chen face him head-on. As long as he entered the range of his skills, He Chen would never be able to escape. But he never expected that as soon as he said a word, He Chen would take the initiative to step forward. This behavior was almost like throwing oneself into a trap, which made Muchen very puzzled. At the same time, there was also a faint uneasiness in my heart. But he couldn't tell what exactly was wrong. At this time, He Chen was already standing opposite Muchen, with the distance between them less than 5 meters. After just a brief attack, He Chen had already figured out the details of Muchen. This guy's skills are really tricky and cannot be defended by ordinary means. Even if he is in the field, he will be affected. But he also discovered the most deadly point about Muchen. That is, Muchen's attributes are too low. Muchen is level 13. In fact, among professionals of the same level, his attribute values are not very low. However, He Chen is too evil. At level 15, He Chen's soul power was equivalent to that of an ordinary professional at level 25. Now at level 17, it is almost the same as an ordinary professional at level 30. The huge gap in soul power meant that even if He Chen did not release the domain, Muchen would not be able to harm him even if he attacked. When Muchen attacked just now, He Chen not only felt the touch of the soul rain on his body, but also noticed a faint restlessness in his body. Being able to be detected meant that the skills Muchen released secretly could not erode his body. On the contrary, if it cannot be noticed, it means that the soul has been eroded and become numb. According to He Chen's estimation, as long as the soul power value exceeds 200 points, one can be completely immune to Muchen's skills. When He Chen was at level 16, his soul power exceeded 200 points, and now it is 261 points. Muchin's soul attacks on him were like rain hitting leaves, completely in vain. But Muchin had become extremely excited at this time. He Chen, there is a road to heaven, but if you don't take it, if there is no door to hell and you break in, then you can't blame me. Burn it for me. Muchin's body erupted with powerful mental power fluctuations. This was the trigger for the explosion of soul fire. However, when his mental power passed by He Chen, nothing happened. He Chen looked at him calmly. That's it. Muchin was confused, he had no idea what was going on. But he had no chance to understand. He didn't know when, but a series of hideous and terrifying curse marks had crawled all over his body. Just now, when Muchin used Soul Rain and Soul Fire skills on He Chen was also applying a curse seal to him. Now, he's done, too. The next moment, He Chen's figure flashed and appeared again at the edge of the ring, while Muchin was surrounded by more than 20 ghost monsters. The ghost monster squeezed Muchin in the middle. Let alone escape, he couldn't even stretch his arms at this moment. What's even more terrifying is that these ghost monsters all turned red at this time, and their bodies were like flames rising. Muchin felt strong uneasiness in his heart and his face was filled with fear. At the same time, on the examiner's bench, the 3 examiners suddenly stood up. A lamp in front of them that originally emitted a calm and peaceful blue light suddenly turned red. This light is the center of the energy circuit connected to the protective cover of the arena. Once it senses that the energy to be erupted in the arena exceeds the limit, it will turn red, which indicates that the energy cover is at risk of breaking. Oops! The 3 examiners were shocked and immediately flew up and landed on the edge of the ring. Their extremely powerful mental power was released to strengthen the defensive shield. At the same moment, boom! The violent explosion caused the entire examination room to shake. The arena was instantly destroyed and turned into fine gravel. The flames entrenched in the defensive cover, turning the defensive cover into red color, and cracks burst out. The 3 examiners felt unprecedented pressure and shouted loudly. Power surged out from their palms and they tried their best to maintain the defensive shield. If the protective shield is broken, every student present will have no chance of living. At the same time, an examiner turned his head, veins popped out on his neck, and shouted ferociously. What are you still doing? All candidates should stay away from this area immediately. The frightened students finally came to their senses and rushed outside. Horrible! Who would have thought that watching a game could be life-threatening? This is simply outrageous. At this time, in the protective shield, the violent energy could not be vented, and it had gradually turned from red to purple. The energy shield was covered with tiny cracks like spider webs, and it was about to be unable to support it. At this moment, a wave of unbearable pressure swept over the entire place, and Yi Yun took action. He stretched out his hand and slowly pressed it down. The indescribably vast force was like a sea that submerged the entire examination room. The protective shield that had originally exploded gradually shrank back under the maintenance of this energy. Not only that, the originally violent energy within the protective shield began to become calm at this time. Soon, the energy inside was completely calmed down by Yi Yun. Arena. No, it can no longer be called an arena, it is completely in ruins. On the ruins, Shui Yi and Gao Cheng fell to the ground, their faces extremely pale. Looking at He Chen's back in front of him, the 2 of them couldn't help but feel scared. Even though he knew clearly that He Chen was their captain, he still felt scared. Really, the scene just now was too terrible. It's simply their nightmare. The 2 secretly vowed that they would never stand on the opposite side of He Chen in this life. Being He Chen's enemy would be the stupidest thing in the world. At this time, under the ring, the 3 examiners were sweating profusely. After bowing to Yi Yun, they asked in a low voice. Mr. Yi, this game, what do you think we should do? Yi Yun put his hands behind his back and didn't seem to care. There is no shortage of this arena. Since it is a battle, there will inevitably be losses. As for the electronic hand cards that failed to protect the candidates, maybe the array masters in the logistics department were lazy and they should be held responsible. By the way, Instructor Yang from the Imperial Academy will come over tomorrow and take a roll call to see the candidate named He Chen. Please remind him and tell him to have a good rest and give me his best performance tomorrow. If he catches the eye of Instructor Yang, he will have a bright future. What? He Chen killed Muchin. How did he do it? After treatment, Lu Yunfei basically recovered. As soon as she woke up, she heard such exciting news. To be honest, if it were anyone else, she would never believe it. But if it's He Chen, that's a guy who can always create miracles. But then, Lu Yunfei became a little worried again. Zhao Tianyu, He Chen killed Muchen, what do the above say, can he still continue to take the unified examination? Hearing this, Zhao Tianyu's expression became strange. Not only Zhao Tianyu, but also Guo Xiaoxiao, Meng Yu and others next to him also had expressions of constipation. Lu Yunfei was anxious. What is the result of the treatment? Tell me quickly. Zhao Tianyu suddenly grinned. Sister Lu, you care so much about Brother Chen, do you like him? Without waiting for Lu Yunfei to answer, Zhao Tianyu began to ask and answer his own questions. But this is normal. Who told me, Brother Chen, to be so good? Not only is he handsome, but he is also so powerful. Don't all girls like this? Lu Yunfei knew that this guy would get more and more outrageous, so she picked up a banana in her hand and threw it at him to shut him up, and then looked at Guo Xiaoxiao. Guo Xiaoxiao said, Sister Lu, don't worry. Brother Chen is fine. After the competition, not only was he not dealt with, but the 3 examiners were also very happy. Lu Yunfei, happy? Are you sure they are happy and not crying? Guo Xiaoxiao continued. The 3 examiners said that since it is a battle, it is naturally accompanied by danger. No matter how good the protection is, it is only an external force. If you are not strong enough, you can't blame others if you die. Lu Yunfei looked strange. It stands to reason that the examiner must be fair and impartial, and no aristocratic family or power can affect the unified examination, but this time, it sounds a bit biased. Although she was full of questions, since He Chen was fine, she felt relieved and would wait until she went back to find He Chen and ask him in person. But then she became melancholy again. He Chen and the Dongolin Guild already had a deep conflict, and now they have killed Mu Dongolin's only son. When Mu Dongolin comes out of the abyss, he will definitely go crazy. We can only hope that the old guy comes out later. Of course, it would be best if he doesn't. On the other side, He Chen was sitting cross-legged in the lounge meditating. The strong fluctuations of his mental power were emitting like ripples of water, filling the entire lounge with a sense of depression. Suddenly, with He Chen as the center, traces of black energy dispersed, and the realm of Netherworld covered the lounge. As He Chen's thoughts changed, black air billowed out from time to time in the lounge, like an abyss, with extremely low visibility. Sometimes the black air dissipates and becomes almost undetectable. This is a manifestation of He Chen's increasing proficiency in the Netherworld and his increasingly sophisticated control. The nature of the field does not change, but the form of expression can be adjusted. When the black energy dissipates, it is almost undetectable when standing outside the domain. The strong black energy will bring depression, collapse, despair and many other negative emotions. The thicker the black energy, the more severe the erosion of these negative emotions will be. He Chen's thoughts moved again, and a man with a trace of deathly aura appeared on his body. Muchen now is very different from before. His eyes are scarlet, cold, numb, without any human emotions. From the traces of black energy emanating from his body, it can be seen that this is not a living person at all. Now Muchen has become one of the many ghost creatures in He Chen's domain. The monsters that die in He Chen's domain will be enslaved by him and become his contracted objects, and the same is naturally true for people. But He Chen had never done this before. There was no other reason, because none of the professionals who had been killed by He Chen met his requirements. Like Xing Sen, the gold medal fighter of the Dongolin Guild, with a pair of iron fists that have extremely powerful attacks. But no matter how high your attack power is, it is still not as powerful as the self-destruction of the boss ghost Tauren King. Instead of contracting with him, it would be better to contract with another boss, the Tauren King. But Mu Chen is different. This guy is a rare profession. Although his attack power is not high, his attack method is extremely weird and tricky, making it difficult for people to guard against him. There are very few methods that target the soul, but every one of them makes people talk about it. Talents like him are in great need in He Chen's field. In conjunction with the domain, Muchen can maximize the power of his two skills. He Chen checked Muchen's attributes. Contract Object 34 Muchen. Occupation Soul Thorn Rare. Level 13. Spell power. 374, retain 77%. Physical strength. 102, 63% retained. Spirit. 250, retain 82%. Soul power. 94, retain 91%. Physique. 88, retain 58%. Agility. 69, retain 57%. Strength. 104, retain 52%. He Chen discovered that there are some differences between humans becoming ghost contract objects and World of Warcraft. Warcraft basically has all its attributes weakened, and basically retains 2/3 of its original strength. Now, as He Chen's level continues to increase, the netherworld has gradually changed, and the strength of the ghost contract has returned to about 3/4. As for Muchen's attributes, they were not evenly weakened, but were obviously biased. Spell attack, spirit, and charm are weakened the least, while others are more weakened. After a little analysis, it is not difficult to see that the better Mu Chen is at something, the more he retains. He Chen pondered slightly, gaining a deeper understanding of his profession and skills. He looked at Muchen's skills again. Soul Rain. Centered on itself, within a 15*15 range, you can release skills. Within the skill range, the target will receive 10 points of spell damage. If the target's soul power value is lower than the main body, it will suffer 10 points of soul damage. If the target exceeds the main body, it will suffer 5 points of soul damage. If the target's soul power value exceeds twice the main body, it will not be able to do damage. Soul Fire. You can use skills on up to 3 targets at the same time, and stack soul fire marks on the targets. Each soul fire mark can cause 15 points of soul damage, and can be stacked up to 20 times. Mark Burst will convert 15% of the damage into permanent damage. Maximum release distance of skills, 20 m. Permanent damage. Interesting. It's a pity that this guy's level is too low and his soul power value is not high enough. Otherwise, he would definitely be a sharp weapon. Once he encounters an opponent whose charm value exceeds 188, he will be completely useless. Distance restrictions are also an issue, being close enough to be useful. He Chen was thinking about how these two skills should work together with his own field. Generally speaking, it is difficult for professionals below level 30 to have a soul power value exceeding 200, so Muchen's lethality against professionals below level 30 will be considerable. But he can't use it easily, at least, not in the unified examination competition. He Chen didn't want to do anything too extreme and leave permanent damage to his opponent who had no grudges and was just an opponent he met in the game. Except those who like to commit suicide. At this time, the electronic hand card glowed faintly. The top 8 matches are all over, and next are the games where 8 will advance to 4 and 4 will advance to 2. The final is tomorrow. He Chen and the other 3 were once again transported to a brand new arena. What surprised him was that the countdown had just ended. 3 people in the opposite team raised their hands and shouted loudly. We admit defeat. In the 8-4, 4-2 games, not to mention Shui Yi and Gao Chang, even He Chen was just going through the motions. Anyway, as soon as you stand on the stage, your opponent will immediately admit defeat. The main focus is clean and neat. Even after the second team stepped down, they said proudly, I can brag when I go out in the future, because I didn't even give He Chen a chance to make a move. There seemed to be nothing wrong with this, because He Chen really didn't take any action. Of course, some people were quite unhappy. They believed that He Chen's strength was not at the same level as theirs. He was more than capable of fighting hundreds of clans on the battlefield. To take part in the unified examination, he must have gone through the back door. He Chen ignored these. Anyway, he is not afraid of slanting shadows. If you don't believe it, just go and check it yourself. Early the next morning, while He Chen was waiting for the last game, on the other side, Yi Yun led dozens of examiners in black robes with solemn expressions, as if they were waiting for something. In front of them, there was a portal shining with colorful lights. Yi Yun had checked the time several times, and as time passed, a puzzled look gradually appeared on his brows. What's going on? The time has passed long ago. Why haven't you come yet? ... Dang dang dang. Someone knocked on the door, and He Chen thought it was Shui Yi, but when he opened the door, he found a short, slightly fat old man with gray beard and hair and a rosy face standing outside. The old man squinted his eyes, with a slightly lewd smile on his face. Hello, what's the matter? He Chen asked. The old man grinned. Are you He Chen? He Chen nodded. Yes, I am He Chen. Are you looking for me? Hey, of course I'm looking for you. On one side of the old man's body, his fat body was very flexible and he squeezed in from He Chen like a loach. There was a hint of surprise in He Chen's eyes. It was so fast that he didn't even react. This old man is definitely a very high-level professional. He Chen pondered slightly, wondering what the other party's purpose was. At this time, the old man had already walked around the room. This was a dormitory for candidates. There was not even a chair. He sat down directly on He Chen's bed. He also patted the side. Come on, young man, sit down, you're welcome, just treat yourself as if you were at home. He Chen, looking at the old man's lewd smile, he felt a chill. Does this old man have any special hobbies? He Chen came over and hugged his fists. Senior, what do you want to see me for? Seeing He Chen being so cautious, the old man appreciated it even more. Don't call me senior. My name is Ouyang Feng, you can call me Teacher Ouyang. Teacher Ouyang, yes, I am from the Imperial Academy. Young man, are you interested in studying at the Imperial Academy? He Chen felt huge waves in his heart. The old man in front of me actually came from Imperial Academy. If you ask which is the best school in the Daxia Empire, everyone will give the same answer, and that is Yanjing College. But if there is any academy that is the most mysterious and has the most powerful people, it must be the Imperial Academy. On the battlefield of hundreds of tribes, nearly half of the powerful men above the leadership level came from the Imperial Academy. This is the most terrifying secret of the Imperial Academy. However, the Imperial Academy never recruits students from outside. Even if you get the top prize in the province or even the first place in the country in the unified examination, you still can't get in. There is only one way to enter the Imperial Academy, and that is to be actively invited. They have a self-contained talent training system, specialized tactical theories for various combat scenarios, and the most important point, there is no distinction between teaching and learning. It can be said that this is completely a military factory manufacturing war machines. The people who enter it are also all kinds of people, which makes people confused. Generally speaking, it is extremely difficult for life professionals to go to top colleges, but you may wake up one day and suddenly receive an invitation from the Imperial College. Even some monsters on the side of humans can become students of the Imperial Academy. But there is no doubt that as long as you enter it, it means that you have taken the first step to becoming a strong person. He Chen had heard that the person responsible for recruiting students at the Imperial Academy had a special title, called the Envoy. It seemed that the old man in front of him was the envoy. The old man sitting on the bed looked like an old god was present. He saw He Chen's expression change several times. He obviously knew the Imperial Academy very well, so there was no need for him to waste any more words. When He Chen enters the academy, it will be in his name. Those old men will be jealous to death of having such a talented student. It makes me happy just thinking about it. Just as Ouyang Feng was thinking happily, He Chen spoke. Sorry, Instructor Ouyang, I want to enter Yanqing College. Ouyang Feng almost stumbled and fell off the bed. He stared, confused. He Chen, don't you know what the Imperial Academy represents? I know. Then why do you want to go to Yanqing College? In front of the Imperial Academy, Yanqing College is nothing. I had a reason to go. He Chen said in a deep voice. Ouyang Feng was silent. He thought for a moment and sat down again. The previous lewd smile disappeared, and Ouyang Feng looked serious. In that case, I won't force you, but can I ask why you have to go? Avertisement. He Chen didn't hide it either. Because there is a professor in Yanjing College who is a believer in the holy light. Qin Mian, that's right. Ouyang Feng's eyebrows knitted together, very confused. That's not right. Although that old guy Qin Mian has something, he is a pure buff and healing support, but a negative buff support in your field. Your expertise is not the same, so it is useless for you to find him. He can't teach you anything. He Chen shook his head. I'm not looking for him for myself. Oh, Ouyang Feng suddenly became interested and asked hurriedly, what's that for? For my sister, she was attacked by a monster and couldn't awaken to become a professional. Poison of the soul. That's right. Yang Feng nodded. He finally understood. I see, there are very few people in the world today who can cure soul poison, and this old man is one of them. He Chen wanted to ask Yang Feng if he could help him contact Professor Qin Mian, but he had just rejected him and couldn't open his mouth. Yang Feng continued. But you are going to be disappointed. If you had gone to find him a few years earlier, there would have been hope. But now, the old guy's lifespan is coming soon. His energy and blood are declining. Every time he takes action, his lifespan will be shortened. Even if you become his disciple, I'm afraid you won't be able to get him to save people. After all, it's poison to the soul. Even if it's him, it will cost a huge price, and he may even die on the spot. If a thunderbolt flashed through He Chen's mind, his ears would buzz. I have worked hard for so long, but in the end it was all in vain. Is there really no hope for my sister? He Chen, who had always been extremely calm, his eyes turned red unconsciously at this moment. He just couldn't accept this. But at this time, Yang Feng showed a sly smile. Don't worry, didn't I just say that there are not many people who can detoxify the soul? Qin Mian is one of them, that means there are others. He Chen was startled, and the light of hope once again appeared in his eyes. He stood up quickly, clasped his fists, and bowed deeply. Please tell me, Teacher Yang, who else can save my sister? Yang Feng looked at the determined young man in front of him and felt extremely emotional. After Yi Yun told him about He Chen, he did some research and found that He Chen had a mind far beyond his peers. He was decisive in killing and had no emotion in everything he did. He was simply born for fighting. Who would have thought that he did all this for a reason? An ordinary person at the bottom of a small city, a teenager with no background, wants to enter the top academy in the country for his sister, just to treat his sister and give her the same starting line as others. The slightly thin shoulders actually carried so much. Moreover, he is so good that he is about to achieve his goal. What he lacked was resources and background, so he didn't know more information. Looking at He Chen in front of him, Yang Feng smiled slightly. If I say that by entering the Imperial Academy, you can save your sister. Before he could finish speaking, He Chen immediately said. I do. Yang Feng was stunned. Don't you ask what the conditions are. He Chen shook his head and said firmly. No matter what the conditions. Yang Feng raised his head and laughed. Okay, great, my trip is really not in vain. He patted He Chen on the shoulder. Don't worry, your sister's affairs will be taken care of by me. But before that, you still have to continue to take the unified examination and show all your abilities. Otherwise, it will be a bit troublesome for me to use the resources of the academy. He Chen nodded heavily. Okay, I will definitely satisfy you. Yang Feng was very pleased. After the two chatted for a while, Shui Yi sent a message asking him to come to the lounge to discuss battle strategies. Today is the last game of the first category. To have made it all the way to this point, the other team is also strong enough. They have already promised that they will never surrender and will have an upright competition with He Chen. He Chen didn't pay attention. Yang Feng was about to leave, so the two of them went out together, chatting while walking. Not far away, a man suddenly trotted towards us and said with a smile. Classmate He Chen, please wait a moment. He Chen glanced at the boy in front of him with some doubts in his eyes, but said nothing. The boy introduced himself. Classmate He Chen, my name is Wang Siming. I come from the Wang family of the Longcheng family. After the unified examination is over, I would like to invite you to be my guest. Please be sure to honor me. He Chen had never heard of the Wang family in Dragon City, but Yang Feng next to him smiled and said. The Wang family, one of the three mysterious families in Dragon City. Haha, there will be trouble. Although the boy didn't know the old man in front of him, he actually knew about their Wang family, and he also appeared in the exam-blocked area, walking side by side with He Chen. He thought his identity was not simple, so he immediately clasped his fists and said. Thank you for the compliment, senior. I really don't take it seriously. After He Chen said a few perfunctory words, he left in a hurry. He really didn't like this kind of twists and turns, and he didn't want to be related to any aristocratic family or power. Not far away, someone came up to meet them again. This time it was the Liu family. They were also one of the three mysterious families in Dragon City. Their influence radiated throughout Shan province and was even stronger than the Wang family. An invitation was also extended to him. Later, several aristocratic families and forces, including the Qin family, the Han family, the Yun family, and the Sanxi Chamber of Commerce, came over and extended their olive branches to He Chen. Later, He Chen almost had a subconscious reaction and ran away as soon as he heard someone calling him. In the lounge, Wu Yangfeng smiled and said, "It seems that you have attracted a lot of people's attention, but this is just the beginning. Later you will find that today is just a small scene, haha." Wu Yangfeng looked gloating. He Chen shook his head slightly and asked, "Teacher Wu Yang, have you experienced this?" "No, I am from the Wu Yang family in Yanjing. Why are other families recruiting me? But when my level was not high, I encountered a lot of attacks and killings. There's still an attack. Of course, let me tell you, human beings are like this. When faced with disasters, they can share the same hatred with the enemy and emerge with huge cohesion. But once they get comfortable, darkness and nastiness will immediately breed. If you have read history, you will know that many ancient dynasties he was born in sorrow and died in happiness." He Chen lowered his head to think and agreed with Wu Yangfeng's statement. This old man has something. Okay, I still have something to do, so I'll leave now. I'll talk to you later. Wu Yangfeng waved his hand and left. On the other side, Yi Yun and all the examiners waited until the portal dissipated, but no one came out. Just when he was confused and was about to contact the academy, Wu Yangfeng walked in with a smile. Yi Yun was stunned. "I'm sorry we've been waiting here for a long time, but you've already come." Yi Yun secretly gritted his teeth, but did not dare to show his dissatisfaction. He led everyone to greet him and bowed in salute. "I've met Teacher Wu Yang. Ha ha ha, Xiao Yun, you still like to engage in these battles, let's break up, let's break up." Wu Yangfeng smiled heartily and went over to put his arm around Yi Yun's shoulders. "Not bad, Xiao Yun, that He Chen is really interesting." Yi Yun's mouth twitched. "Master Wu Yang, can you stop calling me Xiao Yun? You are indeed very small." Yi Yun is a bit emo. "The time is almost up. Instructor Wu Yang, do you want to watch the competition? Today is the final of the first category." "Certainly. On the arena, a few rays of light flashed, and the two teams in the finals were teleported over. He Chen's team is standing on the left, the blue team, and the red team standing opposite He Chen is a man and two women. The leading boy is called Lin Ju, a rare main battle profession, berserker. He Chen has read his information. Lin Ju, level 15, has a skill of berserk, which can put himself into a berserk state, increasing his defense power by 3 times, attack power by 150%, speed by 80%, and lasts for 20 seconds. Often, as long as he uses this skill, the battle will end immediately. The second skill is bloodthirsty. He attacks the opponent and 30% of the damage caused can be converted into his own blood. Copy skill, immortality. It is automatically triggered by a fatal blow, retaining a little blood volume, entering an immortal state, and being immune to all damage for 5 seconds. As for talent, it was not shown in the information, but He Chen guessed that this guy should be A level. To be fair, Lin Ju was indeed very strong. He had almost no opponents at the same level. No wonder he dared to speak wild words towards He Chen. He has the capital. The only pity is that he met He Chen, otherwise, he might have won the final. He Chen, Lin Ju spoke. "I know your explosive move is very powerful, but you are going to be disappointed, your move doesn't work on me." He Chen smiled lightly. 5 seconds of real manhood. Lin Ju's face was ashen. He hated what others said about him the most. Before he could get angry, He Chen said leisurely, "Don't worry, I won't use the explosive move, nor will I hide. I will stand here. As long as you can walk in front of me, I will admit defeat." After saying that, He Chen glanced at Wu Yangfeng on the referee's bench from the corner of his eye. Since he has to show enough strength to save his sister, then he will no longer hold back and win this game with a completely crushing attitude. As the countdown ended, He Chen's mental power surged out like a torrential river. Full power, the realm of the netherworld. Ever since he broke into the secret realm in the wild, He Chen has never shown his full strength to anyone. Even against more than 100 professionals from the Donggulan Guild, He Chen still had reservations. And today, He Chen will show for the first time the netherworld in full power state. As the spiritual power dissipates, black energy billows, like the realm of Netherworld, instantly covering the entire arena. Lin Ju and his two teammates suddenly felt a huge pressure on them, and all attributes were weakened by 17%. Not only that, but unconsciously, a feeling of despair, desolation, loneliness and other countless negative emotions intertwined with each other emerged in my heart, which almost made people despair. It feels like life has no meaning. The game was meaningless. The two assistants even had the mood to quit the game at this moment. HMPH. A little trick. Lin Ju shouted loudly, suppressing the negative emotions in his heart, and also woke up the two teammates behind him. But then, 3 red halos appeared on them. Skill. Absorb. The blood volume of the 3 people dropped at a speed visible to the naked eye, leaving them no more than 1 minute. Lin Ju shouted without hesitation, turned on his rage and bloodthirsty, and rushed towards He Chen. At this time, He Chen's field suddenly became bitingly cold. The Ice Queen slowly rose into the sky, holding her trident high. Ice and snow, come. Heavy snow began to fall in He Chen's field, and Lin Ju's speed suddenly slowed down a lot, like a turtle. Ice Realm, speed minus 50%. Avertisement. But he still gritted his teeth and moved closer to He Chen. There was a hint of blue light in the blood-red eyes of the Ice Queen, and she raised her trident again. Pray, human. The snowflakes that were falling slowly just now turned into sharp ice blades in an instant. Lin Ju's two teammates could not hold on and were kicked out instantly. Several buffs and defensive shields on Lin Ju also disappeared. His pace became even slower. Lin Ju's teeth were clenching. He was less than 10 meters away from He Chen. If he tried harder, he would be able to attack. 1 step, 2 steps. At this time, pairs of scarlet eyes appeared one after another in the billowing black air. One after another, the ghost monsters appeared one after another, but they did not attack Lin Ju. Instead, they stood on both sides to make way for him. Like a welcome in the aisle. But Lin Shu, who was in it at this time, clearly felt as if he had arrived at the Palace of Hell, with powerful ghosts on both sides, and he felt like he was going to worship the King of Hell. He Chen stood at the end of the passage. The goblin leader next to him was babbling. The summoned goblin rushed towards Lin Sui very quickly. But these goblins also did not attack Lin Sui. Instead, they ran around him and made a lot of noise, as if they were cheering Lin Sui on. Part of Lin Ju's health bar turned gray. Demonization, 22%. The time left for him counts down for 20 seconds. After 30 seconds, he will become a demonized creature. Although there will be cards in hand to save one's life, it will also be judged as a loss. Lin Ju gritted her teeth and continued to move forward. 4 meters, 3 meters. The blood bar dropped to the red line, and skill, immortality, was automatically triggered. His blood bar no longer dropped, and even the demonization stopped, but the last 3 meters distance was like a chasm. Next to He Chen, another gray figure appeared. Muchen, who died in the ring before. At the same time, Lin Shu felt stabbing pain and dizziness in his head, and he almost fell down. Lin Ju burst out with superhuman willpower, almost relying on instinct, and once again raised heavy steps like lead. 2 meters, 1 meter. When the immortal time ended, the electronic hand card was triggered, and a ray of light enveloped Lin Ju and then teleported outside the ring. The results of the battle were displayed on the screen next to the ring. Blue wins. He Chen put away his domain, and the whole place was silent. In the past, after every game, the audience would burst into cheers. The winner not only advances, but is also honored and noticed by many forces. But today's game was very strange. It was obviously over, but everyone seemed to have pressed the pause button and didn't make any sound. If you ask them how they feel, there is only one word: shocking. Originally, they thought that He Chen's most terrifying method was those ghost monsters. Especially the explosive move would make anyone tremble, as it has exceeded the limit that their level can bear. But now, they realize how superficial they really are. What He Chen showed them was just the tip of the iceberg. Even without the use of ghost monsters, He Chen could still easily crush them. Lin Ju, who had reached the finals and was only 1 step away from the championship, turned on a violent state and failed to reach He Chen. What if they were replaced? I'm afraid it's even worse. In previous games, whether it was the winning side or the losing side, their strength was within their acceptable range, and given time, they could achieve it. So they can cheer and applaud without any burden. You can set the winner as your goal. But when the gap between the strength of the person in front of them and them is so big that it is almost impossible to surpass them, they really can't be happy. There is envy, there is jealousy, but mostly fear. Lin Ju fell to the ground, gasping for air. Two teammates hurriedly came over to apply treatment and recovery techniques to him. As the blood bar gradually recovered, Lin Ju stood up. Looking at He Chen, who had closed his territory and stood on the stage with an indifferent expression, Lin Shuo took a deep breath. I accept it. The fighting spirit in his eyes has not been wiped out, but has become stronger. He is even a little excited to have such a strong person among his peers. From this moment on, Lin Zuo established an extremely firm belief in his heart. That is, no matter how long it takes, no matter how difficult it is, he must defeat He Chen once in his life. He Chen looked over and nodded slightly. To be fair, Lin Ju is very strong. If Lu Yunfei, who is also level 15, faces Lin Ju, the winning rate will not exceed 20%. He has always respected the strong. Ba bang bang. Ouyang Feng stood up and applauded, followed by Yi Yun, followed closely by the other three examiners. Gradually, some students in the audience also applauded. The applause was sparse at first, but soon the applause became enthusiastic and became one, and evolved into a warm applause that resounded throughout the entire stadium. Enduring. The second category is the defense competition. This game is a chance for previously defeated teams. As long as they are strong enough, it is very possible to overtake them in a corner. There are 10 arenas in total, and 10 armored guards stand on the arena. As long as they are defeated, you can become the ring master. If you accept 10 challenges, or if no one challenges you for more than half an hour, it will be judged as a successful defense. This game was quite boring for He Chen because no one came to challenge him. Standing on the ring, He Chen looked impatient. If I had known earlier, I would have waited for someone else to occupy the ring and went up to challenge me. After standing around bored for half an hour, He Chen got full marks and stepped off the stage. So far, He Chen has received full marks in 2 categories, totaling 180 points, ranking first. Lin Ju is second with 170 points. Lu Feifei also successfully defended the competition and scored 150 points, but only ranked 10th. Meng Yu is ranked 22nd, Zhao Tianyu is 37th, and there are no more after that. Only the top 50 candidates are listed here. The rankings of other teams are only visible to them. But at the end, all students suddenly received an announcement. Notice to all candidates. In the third category of the unified examination, the score limit for the tower climbing challenge is cancelled. After reaching the top of the tower, you will be automatically transferred to the battlefield of hundreds of tribes, where you will get 1 point for each monster you kill. Tip: the battlefield of hundreds of tribes is extremely dangerous. Please choose carefully. If you are not strong enough, please give up in time and choose to end the game after reaching the top of the tower. Seeing this announcement, not only He Chen and other candidates, but also the examiners in charge of the unified examination in Yiyun were confused. What's going on? Why have the rules of the unified examination been changed? An examiner asked. Yiyun shook his head. You ask me, how do I know? But he turned his attention to Ouyang Feng. At Ouyang Feng's level, 80% of the time he would receive some information in advance. Ouyang Feng rolled his eyes. Those fools in the Presbyterian Church are still such idiots. I just told you that I found them to be mysterious before I came here. They didn't even tell me. I'm so tight-lipped. How can I still leak the secret? Yiyun blinked his eyes. Although he said nothing, his expression showed a hint of contempt, as if to say, have you ever tightened your mouth? Ouyang Feng pinched his chin, with a thoughtful look in his eyes. But you should be able to guess that starting from last year, the battlefield of hundreds of tribes has begun to be tight. I don't know why. The number of Warcraft has increased several times than before. I heard that many high-end schools have been added this year, and even the talents are only D. There are opportunities for high-level main combat and auxiliary professions, and a large number of life professionals are also recruited. It seems that the situation on the front line is more urgent than we thought. The idea is to target these babies. This is to make them adapt in advance and train them specifically for the battlefield of hundreds of races. But you don't have to worry too much. Since it is a unified examination and training is the main thing, they will never be placed in a dangerous area. They will most likely be on the edge of the battlefield to eliminate those low-level monsters. After listening to Wu Yangfeng's analysis, Yi Yun's brows gradually relaxed. Indeed, he also understood that the situation in the 100 Races battlefield was indeed not optimistic. In the Imperial Academy, the number of tasks related to the 100 Races battlefield had increased more than tenfold. Various tactical theories and World of Warcraft analysis programs have also increased significantly on major TV stations. There have even been several related movies and TV series. The Imperial Broadcasting and Television Center has greatly relaxed its approval of such themes. The clouds of war are gradually spreading, and it is natural to train students in this direction. But Yi Yun was still a little worried. After all, it was a battlefield of hundreds of tribes. Even in fringe areas, danger is everywhere. It seems that this is more than just a grind. Yi Yun said to himself. Is this the Tower of Babel? As soon as the third competition category began, all candidates were teleported to the Tower of Babel at the same time. He didn't know how big it was here, but what He Chen saw was that 30 agency guards in heavy armor were divided into 3 rows, and the light in their eyes gradually lit up. These guards are exactly the same as the guards in the ring before, and their strength cannot be underestimated. Although there were 10 students in the arena competition at that time, the average 3-person team was no match for these guards. Now, with 30 guards in total, the difficulty has only increased. This is only the first level. These students had main battle professions and auxiliary professions. After seeing the situation in the room clearly, they discussed forming a team. The more people there are, the more powerful they are. If their professions match each other, they can achieve the effect of 1 + 1 greater than 2. There is still a chance to break through the obstruction of these guards. They need to withstand the attacks of these 30 guards and go to the stairs at the other end of the room, in order to pass the level. Of course, there is a less laborious way. He Chen. A few students looked at him timidly and asked softly. Can you take us up there? You are so powerful, you can definitely take care of all these guards, right? Yes, and you have to go through it too, so help us by the way. He Chen glanced at a few people with a cold expression. Why should I help you? The area was spread out, and He Chen reached the stairs in a flash. He really had no interest in dealing with these scraps. There was no challenge at all. The guards had already rushed towards the students, ignoring the wailing sounds, and He Chen walked directly up the stairs. It's not that He Chen is indifferent, but that he understands a truth. If you don't have the strength, don't rush forward. If he really helps, it will harm these people. When the time comes, they will come to complain about him instead. Let go of the need to help others and respect the fate of others. Arriving at the second floor, the students were disrupted and regrouped. This time there were still 30 guards, but only 5 students. He Chen skipped all this type of battles and went directly to the 10th floor. Here, he was the only one. Is the team getting smaller and smaller, or am I the only one coming up? He Chen muttered a few words. At this point, He Chen's territory was restricted, covering less than 1/3 of the room, and the number of guards increased to a full 200. It seems like we can only fight hard. He Chen thought about it. Between fighting hard and guerrilla, he chose obscene development. Open the realm and add the Ice Queen's Ice Realm. Once a guard enters it, his speed will be as fast as a turtle crawling. He can easily dodge and pass between the guards. These guards are just puppets and cannot be used to restore their own spiritual power, so He Chen must try to preserve his strength. The 11th floor. Coming here, He Chen originally thought that the difficulty would increase further, with more guards or stronger strength. But what surprised him was, there are no guards here. What is tested here is theoretical knowledge. He Chen was fortunate that he had always ranked first in theory classes for 3 years. Many students don't take theory classes seriously, thinking that strength is everything. When they realize they have high talent and a better career, they feel proud. If they are bad, they feel sorry for themselves and think that they didn't spend too much energy on useless things. And happy. If they came to this level, they would probably be dumbfounded. The 3 consecutive floors were all theoretical exams, each one more difficult than the next. The exam on the 13th floor, even for He Chen, took half an hour to complete. On the 14th floor, the exam content changed again. As soon as he came up, He Chen was covered by a layer of territory. On the 14th floor, a mechanism doll appeared, and it actually had domain skills. LV.14 Mechanism Doll. Skill 1. Flowing Fire. Summons meteorites to fall from the sky, and being hit by the meteorites will cause a lot of damage. Skill 2. Stink. Domain skills. Within the skill range, the target's movement speed is -7%, and the skill has an 8% chance of being interrupted. It seems that at this level, exam content has begun to be set based on the characteristics of professionals. He Chen thought. However, the domain of this doll is not strong, at least for He Chen, it is not too obvious. The speed was reduced, but He Chen never needed to rely on speed to attack the enemy. With a thought, He Chen's domain appeared, and its scope was even wider, directly wrapping the puppet's domain. He appeared beside the puppet and solved it with only 20 curse seals. It took less than 30 seconds in total. The next few floors of the tower were still the same, but the fields began to become stronger and stronger, and the number of dolls gradually increased. Until the 22nd floor, the test content finally changed again. As soon as he stepped onto this level, He Chen didn't find an enemy, but instead there was a huge mirror. In the mirror, He Chen's figure was reflected, and it didn't seem to be anything special. Is this the end? He Chen looked around the room and didn't see even the shadow of the enemy. Shadow. He Chen suddenly thought of something and returned to the mirror again. His eyes in the mirror were cold, numb, and empty, not like a living person at all. Could it be that, as soon as He Chen had this idea, a dazzling light suddenly burst out from the mirror, and a man exactly like He Chen walked out? He Chen understood that the mirror was not an ordinary mirror at all, but collected his data and created an opponent exactly like him. Fighting against yourself. He Chen's guess was correct. The assessment content of this level was aimed at the contestants themselves. All aspects of the data of the puppets produced were exactly the same as those of the participating candidates, including their combat experience. This is a fatal blow to those candidates who rely on others to gain experience to upgrade. At this time, in the exam backstage, several examiners looked at the data displayed on the instrument, and their eyes gradually became weird. Next to them, Yi Yun and Ouyang Feng were paying attention to the candidates' information. Apart from He Chen, there were only 3 people who had passed the 10th level. Lin Ju was stuck at the 3rd level of the theoretical exam and showed no signs of passing. On the contrary, it was Lu Yunfei, who was on the 3rd level of the theoretical examination, and her speed through the test was almost as fast as that of He Chen. At that time in school, only He Chen could beat her in this aspect. I'm just telling you, this guy will be fine. He was the first one to come up. The last level is not simple. The opponent's attributes and skills are completely the same as your own. In the past, there were advantages of level and profession, but now, it all depends on combat experience. I think this guy's combat experience is not bad at all. Dolls have no emotions and do not know pain, while humans have emotions such as fear, anger, and withdrawal. Once affected by these emotions, it is impossible to win. Okay, I also want to see how perverted this kid can be. While the two were chatting, Yi Yun suddenly noticed that the expressions on the examiners' faces were not quite right. What's wrong? That's weird. This is the first time something like this has happened. Ouyang Feng also became interested and came over to ask, what's the matter? An examiner said, in the past, when students came to the 22nd floor, the copy mirror could scan them immediately and copy an opponent. No one ever lasted longer than 3 seconds. But this time, it actually took 3 minutes. After the words fell, there was a deathly silence in the conference room. As the upper echelons of the academy, Yi Yun and Ouyang Feng knew what this meant. There is only one thing that can affect the scanning speed of the copy mirror, and that is the player's talent level. But generally speaking, even an A-level talent only takes 3 seconds. He Chen is an S-level talent. They already know that it is normal for the time to be a little longer, but if it takes 3 minutes, that is outrageous. This is not the time required for an S-level talent at all. I can only explain one point. He Chen is not an S-level talent at all, his talent level is higher. However, throughout the Daxia Empire, the instruments used to detect talent can only detect S-level talent at best, because in history, there has never been a professional who has surpassed S-level talent. Yang Feng laughed. I really didn't make a mistake. This little guy can always surprise people. Yi Yun muttered. Teacher Yang, do you want me to go to the academy to get the demon crystal ball? The demonic crystal ball of the Imperial Academy is a masterpiece left by the highest level magister in the history of the Empire. It can accurately detect the talent level. The higher the level, the more colors it emits. There is no upper limit. From E level to A level, the color increases from 1 to 5. If He Chen has 6 colors, then he is only S level, but if there are more than 6 colors, then there is no doubt that He Chen's level must exceed S level. Yang Feng shook his head. No need, anything good in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Being too ostentatious is not a good thing for him, at least when he grows up. Yi Yun understood Yang Feng's concerns and said no more. Yang Feng continued. Everyone must keep today's matter a secret. If it is leaked, don't blame the old man for being ruthless. The expressions of the examiners present changed and they nodded immediately. Teacher Yang, please don't worry, we will keep it secret. At this time, on the 22nd floor, He Chen had already started fighting with the doll, and everyone stopped talking and stared at the screen. It's really amazing. He Chen's expression has never been so serious. When he encountered an opponent in chess, he had to prepare carefully. Not only is the domain of this doll exactly the same as mine, but the ghost monster inside is also the same. The Tauren King, the Ice Queen, the Goblin Leader, and even Muchen are here. 2 realms of Netherworld shrouded the place, turning it into a pitch-black hell, in which black energy surged and violent collisions broke out from time to time. In the black air, 2 figures kept flickering. He Chen advanced and the figures retreated. If He Chen retreats, the puppet will chase after him. The battle between the two was stalemate and extremely fierce. However, the more He Chen fought, the calmer he became. He found that although this doll was exactly the same as him in attributes and other aspects, it was a bit jerky in combat. This should be a breakthrough. The 2 ice queens rose into the sky at the same time, and the blue snowflakes fell, and the speed of He Chen and the puppets suddenly slowed down. However, this was just a feint from He Chen. Slow down the speed so that the puppet can catch up with him. As expected by He Chen, the puppet immediately commanded the replica ghost monsters to surround He Chen. At the same time, those monsters turned red. This is going to explode. The puppet fell into the trap. He Chen grinned. Play with explosions, I am your ancestor. Avertisement. The explosion is not simply a matter of causing all the ghost monsters to explode collectively. For different situations, He Chen will also use different strategies such as point explosion, fragmentation explosion, interspersed explosion, and lure explosion. Just after the opponent's cloned monster entered the explosive state, He Chen immediately took back all his monsters, entered the obscene state, and used his domain to block the wave of explosive attacks. Facts have proved that He Chen's calculations were correct. After some shocks, his field finally calmed down and was not broken. It takes a very short buffering period for the opponent's replicating monsters to be summoned. At this time, He Chen's 3 ghost monsters were already glowing red and rushing towards the replica dolls. Then, He Chen moved 30 steps laterally and waited quietly for the puppet to take the bait. This is the only loophole. If you want to avoid being bombed, you have to rush out from here. Sure enough, the next moment, black energy surged in front of He Chen, and the doll suddenly appeared. He Chen grinned. I've been waiting for you for a long time. There is no emotion in the numb and empty eyes of the doll, but its movements are much panicked. He Chen pressed forward closely and quickly struck out curse seals one after another. The puppet turned and ran away. But here, there is not only its domain, but also He Chen's domain. When the puppet discovered that he couldn't get rid of He Chen, and the only way was to fight hard and interrupt He Chen's skills, the puppet immediately stopped and moved towards the oncoming He Chen, dancing with both hands, and put curse seals on He Chen. But, it's too late. The puppet had just cast the 3rd curse seal, and He Chen waved his hand. Goodbye. The curse marks covering the doll's body exploded instantly, taking it away directly. The room returned to its original appearance, and He Chen looked at the screen next to him. Cleared successfully, time taken, 3:20. 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Seeing his results, He Chen nodded slightly, quite satisfied. Then he sat down cross-legged and began to realize what he had learned from the battle just now. It has to be said that this kind of evenly matched battle can greatly improve his combat experience. In the battle just now, he also discovered many shortcomings in himself. The puppet's fighting experience is not inferior to his. In just 1 minute, He Chen has tried several fighting methods, but they were all cracked by the opponent one by one. So He Chen made a prompt decision and no longer looked for the other party's flaws, but began to think about where his own flaws lay. His flaws are the flaws of the doll. This is also a common problem in the auxiliary profession. The basic attack is weak, the damage against a single target is not enough, and there are no powerful striking skills. When I think about it carefully, I realize that I have quite a few shortcomings. Starting from this point, he used a conspiracy to make the puppets unable to avoid, and suffered a small loss. He Chen held on tightly and used this as a breakthrough. In the end, like an avalanche, this small advantage was destroyed, tore into a huge hole, and won the battle. At this time, in the conference room, Yi Yun looked at the screen with complicated eyes. He knew that He Chen would be able to pass the level, but he didn't expect that He Chen could be so fast. The combat experience and on-the-spot reaction that He Chen showed were not like a student who had just awakened, but more like those veterans who had experienced countless battles on the battlefield of hundreds of tribes. Even he, a battle-hardened and powerful man, felt a little numb. Beside him, Wu Yangfeng looked like an old god was present. He couldn't hide the smile on his lips. He asked Yi Yun, "What's the previous record of clearing this level?" Yi Yun took a deep breath. The previous fastest record was 38 minutes and 12 seconds. Wu Yangfeng's smile became even brighter. This little guy is really surprising. Not only did he break the record, but he also advanced the time so much. I'm afraid no one will be able to break his record again for a long time to come. Yi Yun had no intention of refuting Wu Yangfeng's conclusion, and even subconsciously thought that Wu Yangfeng was being conservative. In his view, this record can definitely be said to be unprecedented and unprecedented. It may become a swan song. Let alone anyone breaking it, it is almost impossible to even come close. You know, this is not about crushing others with combat power. What you have to face is an opponent who has exactly the same attributes as you in all aspects. Moreover, the doll does not have human emotions, and in some ways, it is even stronger than you. Defeating the puppet means you have to surpass your own limits. Among the people present, Yi Yun and Wu Yangfeng were probably the only ones who could do it. The last record Yi Yun set in a simulated battle was 13 hours and 10 minutes. Wu Yangfeng should be within 12 hours. Throughout the history of the Great Xia Kingdom, anyone who can do it for less than an hour is a strong man who has left a strong mark on the entire history. He really couldn't imagine how He Chen could find his own shortcomings and formulate corresponding tactics in just 3 minutes. This extremely keen sense of combat, the more I think about it, the more my scalp becomes numb. He already had a premonition that maybe not long after, an extremely terrifying guy would appear out of nowhere. However, before that, Yi Yun's eyes flashed with light. He knew that the old man Wu Yangfeng was already determined to accept He Chen as his student, and shouldn't he also invest in it? If He Chen's fame really rises in the future, there will definitely be countless people who want to try to curry favor with him, and he may not even be able to squeeze in by then. Teacher Wu Yang. Yi Yun moved closer. Wu Yangfeng glanced at him sideways. You kid, let it go as soon as you fart. Yi Yun chuckled. I heard that He Chen has a sister. Wu Yangfeng's expression changed, and his eyes were a little unkind. You kid, what do you want to do? I'm warning you, He Chen is about to become my student. Yi Yun shook his head repeatedly and said with a bitter smile. Teacher Wu Yang, who do you think I am? I heard that He Chen's sister seems to have been injured and cannot become a professional. I want to ask if you need my help. Wu Yangfeng's expression softened a little and he said angrily. I don't need you to worry about my student's affairs. I will take care of it. Yi Yun pursed his lips. Sure enough, the old man Wu Yangfeng moved faster than him. Wu Yangfeng still couldn't tell Yi Yun's thoughts. He rolled his eyes, raised his chin towards him and said. Do you want me to give you a little heads up? Yi Yun's eyes lit up. Please also ask teacher Yang to give me some advice. Yang Feng showed a sly smile and whispered. When he was in Linjiang, He Chen offended a guild. The son of the guild president was the one He Chen killed in the previous competition. Now I heard that the guild president seemed to be coming out of the abyss. Quote, Yi Yun understood it instantly, and his smile gradually became lewd. Chapter 61. Who are you? Outside the abyss of the ancient dragon, a middle-aged man with a ferocious scar in the corner of his eye shouted coldly. He had just come out of the abyss, and although his results were not satisfactory, he had reached level 50 as expected. Level 50 can be transferred once, and after one transfer, the strength will change drastically. After the transfer is over, he will come back to the abyss, and he will definitely be able to kill the evil dragon. Now, he wanted to return to Linjiang as soon as possible. Even if he had to exhaust the guild's foundation, he still had to gather the materials and complete the revolution. However, as soon as he came out, he was blocked. The vast aura of the person in front of him made him feel very dangerous, and he couldn't help but be prepared. Opposite him, Yi Yun, who was wearing a dark blue flowing robe, smiled faintly at him. My name is Yi Yun, and I'm here specifically to find you. Oh, Mu Dongolin had a bad premonition, but the strength of the person opposite him was unfathomable, so he did not dare to act rashly. After pondering for a moment, he cupped his fists and said, Any advice? Yi Yun sighed and said, You have a warrior guild in Linjiang, called the Dongolin Guild, right? Exactly. It's gone now. What's the meaning? Mu Dongolin was shocked. Yi Yun looked at him with sympathy. Just when you were going deep into the abyss, your guild suffered a heavy blow, and was subsequently divided among several other forces in Linjiang. Now the Dongolin Guild has been completely removed from the group. Mu Dongolin's face turned livid. Okay, Lu Feihei, Du Guyun, Duan Ya, Zhao Shuai, Wang Jimin, Zhang Yuefei, you guys, you dare to take advantage of my absence and attack my guild, then prepare to pay the price. He gritted his teeth. In the entire Linjiang, only the city lord Du Guyun can make him fearful. The others are not even level 50. When he completes the transformation, he can easily wipe out those chickens and dogs. As for Du Guyun, after turning around, do you still need to be afraid of him? These pickled things dare to carve up his own Dongolin guild. When he goes back, he will definitely tell them to eat them and spit them out. No, they have to pay double the price. Mu Dongolin clasped his fists and said, Friend, thank you for the news. If you are of any use to me, Mu Dongolin, just let me know. Yi Yun chuckled. Do not worry, he continued. There is also news for you that your son has also been killed. What? Mu Dongolin's face changed drastically as if he had been struck by lightning, and his whole body was trembling. Are you telling the truth? Yi Yun spread his hands. Why did I lie to you? Mu Dongolin tried his best to control his emotions and asked in a trembling voice. Who did it? Yi Yun tilted his head. Although I know, why should I tell you? Mu Dongolin's eyes widened, his fists were clenched, veins popped out, and he gritted his teeth and said. No matter who it is, I will skin him and kill his whole family. After I avenge my son, I can do one thing for you. Yi Yun said nothing and looked at him with regret. He sighed and asked. Is there no room for change? Mu Dongolin shook his head. The hatred of killing a son is irreconcilable. Is there a possibility? Yi Yun said seriously. The other party is not something you can provoke. You can only break your teeth and swallow it in your stomach. Mu Dongolin struggled for a while, then said with difficulty. As the other parties, power so terrifying. Yi Yun scratched his head. It's not accurate to talk about power. Let me tell you this. Not only you are the people who want to protect him, I can't afford to offend him, and I also want to protect him. Mu Dongolin was shocked. He originally thought that the other party came specially to tell him the news, but now it seems that the other party has another purpose. For a moment, Mu Dongolin was a little unsure of what the other party meant. Yi Yun was a little impatient and asked again. I will give you away now. Give up hatred and go into seclusion in the mountains and forests. This way, at least one day, you can make a comeback. As for your son, just have another one, what do you think? Mu Dongolin was silent for a while and shook his head firmly. No matter who the other party is, if he dares to kill my son, then I will make him pay the price. No discussion, till death do us part. This time, Yi Yun didn't speak for a long time. But the aura emanating from him became more and more terrifying. Actually, generally speaking, I am not willing to kill people. Yi Yun sighed and said, but now it seems that he must be killed. Mu Donggolan didn't understand what he meant. My friend, I, Mu Donggolan, have told you the truth. Please tell me who killed my son. I, Mu Donggolan, owe you a favor. Actually, sometimes, knowing too much is not a good thing. Haha, now I have nothing and am alone, what else do I have to be afraid of? Yi Yun shook his head. It's hard to persuade a ghost with good words, but if that's the case, I'll give you a chance to make the first move. If you can escape, I'll spare your life. Yi Yun said calmly. Mu Donggolan was suddenly startled and couldn't help but take several steps back. Just now, he felt a biting killing intent from the other party. Mu Donggolan didn't understand at all. Friend, what does this mean? The other party came here specifically to tell him so much information, but now he has murderous intentions towards him. Yi Yun's eyes turned cold, as if looking at a dead person. I originally wanted to spare your life, but you insist on seeking death. Since there is no possibility of reconciliation, I'm sorry, I can only ask you to die. As soon as the words fell, the majestic pressure like the sea came down instantly. Winds rose on the ground, sand flew and rocks flew, and the spiritual power rolled out like waves, making the skin all over Mu Donggolan's body tingle. Mu Donggolan understood that if he didn't take action, he would be dead. Immediately, Mu Donggolan took a deep breath, and the electric light in his hands gathered together, condensing an energy ball that shone with dazzling white light. As more and more power gathered, the energy ball became violent until it could no longer be suppressed. When he was about to move, he pushed hard and blasted towards Yi Yun. Electric light cannon, Mu Donggolan yelled. A beam of light with a diameter of more than 2 meters shot out from between Mu Donggolan's palms. The originally dark sky and earth were illuminated a lot. Wherever the light beam passed, whether it was sand, gravel or vegetation, everything was instantly vaporized. However, facing such a terrifying blow, Yi Yun didn't even have a single look in his eyes. Is that the only level? Then I don't even need to use weapons. In Yi Yun's hand, the blue power condensed into the shape of a burning sword, and then he waved it lightly. The oncoming light beam was directly split by the blue fire sword, like snowflakes meeting a red-hot knife, collapsing at the first touch. This wasn't the end yet. A thin line of blue sword energy split open the beam of light and swept across Mu Donggolan's body in an instant, leaving a small mark on his face. Mu Donggolan's aura just now was like a stone sinking into the sea, without any trace left. Afterwards, Mu Donggolan fell to the ground. Yi Yun came over, shook his head slightly, and closed his eyes. Linzhong, City Lord's Mansion. The City Lord Du Guyun, the head of the Liu family Liu Feihe, the City Defense Captain Zhao Shuai, the Deputy Mayor of the Executive Office Zhang Yuefei, and the presidents of the 3 major guilds in Linzhong gathered here. In front of them, there was a corpse. Mu Donggolan. Du Guyun stepped forward, cupped his hands, and asked Yi Yun. I wonder if you respect your name, sir. We might as well thank you for helping us get rid of this great harm in Linzhong. Yi Yun waved his hand and said calmly. My name is Yi Yun, from Imperial Academy. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Imperial Academy. This is the most mysterious school in the entire Daxia Empire. Even if it is called a holy land, it is not an exaggeration. The mysterious strong man in front of him actually came from the Imperial Academy. No wonder he could easily kill Mu Donggolan. Du Guyun's eyes flickered and he held his hand towards Yi Yun again. This is my Linzhong matter, but I bothered you to take action. I'm really ashamed. Yi Yun yawned. In order to block Mu Donggolan, he stayed up all night. It's okay. It's not for you. As the person in charge of the unified examination of Shan Province, I have the obligation to ensure the safety of every student. This guy is blind and threatens the candidates, so I will naturally take action to eliminate him. Of course, you can define it as good people and good things. Finally, he added something. Remember, my name is Yi Yun. He waved to the people in the hall, then took out a portal and left directly. There was silence in the hall for a few minutes. A guild leader approached Lu Feihe and asked in a low voice. Master Lu, do you believe it? Lu Feihe curled his lips. Guarantee students' safety, good people and good deeds. I'm not a fool, so of course I don't believe it. After waiting for a full day, a total of 6 people finally reached the top of the tower. What surprised He Chen was that Zhao Tianyu was among them. Seeing He Chen, Zhao Tianyu said with tears in his eyes. Brother Chen, I didn't expect that I would be able to fight alongside you in my lifetime. Wow, I got what I wanted. He Chen dodged Zhao Tianyu, who rushed towards him with a look of disgust on his face, and almost got snot wiped from his nose by this guy. In addition to Zhao Tianyu, the other 4 people are Lin Zhu, Lu Yunfei, Jai Tianjin, and Nuo Wei. Jai Tianjin, level 16, auxiliary profession, Son of Glory. Skill 1, Weapon of Light, adds light attributes to teammates, attack power bonus by 20%, additional light attribute damage, critical hit rate plus 5%, duration 3 minutes, cooling time 10 minutes. Skill 2, Guardian of Light, increase the defense of teammates by 15%, and attach a shield that can withstand up to 1000 points of damage, lasting 3 minutes. Cooling time 15 minutes. Both skills are extremely practical, adding attack and defense. This type of assistance is the most popular. The other is a pure wet nurse. Novi, level 14, rare auxiliary profession, Holy Light Believer. Skill 1, teammates within range, restore 5 blood points per second, lasting for 1 minute, cooling time 5 minutes. Skill 2, Joyful Overture, teammates are encouraged, and all attributes begin to recover, with a recovery speed of 2% per second. During recovery, defense increases by 20%, agility plus 20%, cooling time 10 minutes. Seeing Nuo Wei's occupation, He Chen's heartbeat suddenly accelerated. Nuo Wei has the same profession as Professor Qin Mian, whom He Chen had been thinking about before. However, after asking, He Chen was disappointed. Novi's talent level is B, which means that she can only be promoted to level 70 at most, and cannot awaken the level 80 skill Nirvana. However, He Chen still held a glimmer of hope and called Nuo Wei over. Nuo Wei was a little nervous when facing He Chen, who had a famous reputation. Classmate He Chen, did you call me? He Chen nodded and handed over a few red fruits. This was sent by Shui Yi before. He felt like it was worthless and kept it unused. Looking at Zhu Guo in front of her, Nuo Wei became even more nervous. This gift is so valuable. He Chen said calmly. You don't have to think too much, just take it. We will form a team soon. It will be good for both of us if you improve your strength. Nuo Wei saw that He Chen's serious face didn't look like he was joking, so she accepted it. Under He Chen's watch, Nuo Wei ate all the red fruits. He Chen immediately asked. How's it going? Has your talent been promoted? Nuo Wei closed her eyes and felt it for a while, then shook her head. No. Seeing He Chen's disappointed eyes, Nuo Wei almost cried. It was so crazy just now that she dared to accept such an expensive gift. Now He Chen is disappointed, what should she do? She can't afford it. If that doesn't work, she can be He Chen's girlfriend. On the other side, Zhao Tianyu had a mean smile on his face and elbowed the livid Lu Yunfei. Tisk, 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 Sister Lu, I just discovered today that Brother Chen is so proud. He can give away 20 to 30,000 crystal coins as soon as he wants. Why don't we get this kind of treatment? Sister Lu, do you think Brother Chen is interested in that Nuo Wei? I think she is just average looking. Her legs are just a little longer and her bust is a little bigger. But this figure is really amazing. No wonder she is nanny. Zhao Tianyu kept chattering, but did not hear Lu Yunfei's response. When he looked back, he was startled. At this time, Lu Yunfei's face was red, his breathing was heavy, his eyes were full of fierce light, and his whole body was exuding murderous intent. Zhao Tianyu immediately shut up and did not dare to speak again. He was really afraid that Lu Yunfei would rise up and kill him. Never overestimate women who are dominated by emotions. The women above are no less than gangsters. Zhao Tianyu took a few steps back and walked away wisely. Brother Chen, take care. Zhao Tianyu said silently. After waiting for a few minutes, Yi Yun appeared with several examiners. Everyone immediately became quiet and stood up together. Yi Yun didn't appear many times during the exams. He was either very noble in gold robes or cold and serious in black robes. The only thing that remained unchanged was his face that was always emotionless, so he was also called cold by students in private. Nian Shen. Glancing at the 6 people in front of him, Yi Yun said, I originally thought that this class of students from Shan province was pretty good, but it seems I overestimated it. In the whole day, only 6 people showed up. Don't think that I am deliberately belittling you. I might as well tell you that among the 22 provinces in the entire Daxia Kingdom, you are ranked 3rd from the bottom. I can tell you one more news. From the top-ranked Yanjing examination area, 28 people finally reached the top of the tower, which is more than 4 times your number. Of course, don't be happy. Standing here only means that you are qualified to enter top universities, but if you are placed on a real battlefield, you are still vulnerable. I hope you can refute me, but I hope you will slap me in the face with facts. Now I will give you this opportunity. You are about to teleport to the battlefield of hundreds of tribes. On the battlefield, you will form small teams based on the examination area. Killing a monster will give you and your team 1 point each. At this time, the Imperial Academy has also launched a special recruitment. The top 10 students can get admission from the Imperial Academy. The top 10 teams will receive an unexpected reward. Yi Yun gave it a try and deliberately paused for a long time before announcing. The top 10 teams will each receive a level 30 purple outfit. Hearing this, Lin Ju and others suddenly took a breath of cold air. He Chen was also deeply surprised. As expected of the Imperial Academy, the move was truly heroic. It's unbelievable that everyone has a purple outfit. Not to mention He Chen, even Lu Yunfei, who came from the first family in Linjiang, widened his eyes in surprise at this moment. With her family background, she was naturally equipped with a purple outfit, but because of this, she knew better what the purple outfit meant. If you have money, you can buy blue equipment, but you may not be able to buy purple equipment. This is the hard standard that represents the strength of a party. At this time, the happiest people were none other than Lin Ju and the other 4. They all come from relatively ordinary backgrounds. Although their strength is good, their accumulation is weak. After all, they have not been awakened for a long time, and so far, they only have a few pieces of blue equipment. The worst one, Nuo Wei, even has a few pieces of white equipment. In the previous exam, the examinee's grid space was sealed, the equipment could not be used, and everyone was pulled to the same starting line. But now, the restrictions have been lifted, everyone has naturally revealed their background, and the gap has suddenly widened. He Chen, dressed in a mournful suit, was dazzling even Lu Yunfei. This is the real proof of combat power. All the secret wild places in Linjiang were opened by He Chen in less than half a month. After Yi Yun said a few more words, he went to build a teleportation array with several examiners. He Chen noticed that Nuo Wei's equipment was very poor. After thinking for a while, he threw away a few unused green equipment in the grid space. Back on the battlefield, except for this nanny, there is no need to bring anyone else with you at all, because it will only affect the speed of drawing pictures. And this scene was seen by Lu Yunfei again. Lu Yunfei. Lu Yunfei didn't know why she was always affected emotionally. Originally, he just wanted to beat He Chen. But last time she was injured by Muchen. When she woke up, she heard that He Chen actually killed Muchen. At that time, besides being shocked, she seemed to have some inexplicable emotions. From then on, she became a little weird. She would be very angry when she saw He Chen getting close to other girls. But if she really spoke, she didn't know what to say. So I can only sulk alone. Yuqi saw Nuo Wei burst into tears of gratitude and grabbed He Chen's hand, she almost couldn't control it. Novi, don't fall into my hands. Lu Yunfei said bitterly in her heart. The teleportation array is ready, please prepare. Yi Yun came over and said. Several people's faces straightened up and they looked at the huge magic circle with a diameter of more than 10 feet in front of them. Everyone's eyes were changing. There are expectations, yearnings, belligerence, and thinking. As the 6 people walked into the magic circle, Yi Yun waved his hand, and the magic circle's light suddenly shot into the sky. He Chen and the 6 others disappeared instantly. Is this the battlefield of hundreds of tribes? He Chen looked around. It was almost endless. The distant sky was dark red and blocked by thick clouds. They were on a huge city wall. He Chen visually estimated that it was probably nearly 100 meters high. There are traces of potholes everywhere on the city wall, and the bloodstains in many places are still fresh. It seems that there have been fierce battles recently. In addition to the 6 He Chens, other teams also appeared here one after another, all based on the examination area. He Chen took a look and found that the number of people here was indeed small, while in other examination areas, there were as few as 8 or 9 people, and as many as more than 20 people. There were many examination areas with more than 10 people. The largest number was naturally in the Yanjing examination area. The huge lineup of nearly 30 people attracted attention from all parties as soon as they appeared. He Chen discovered Lin Yubing among them. What surprised him was that Li Jing was among them. No wonder Li Jing was not seen during the unified examination. It turned out that she took the unified examination in the Yanjing examination area. Li Jing and Lin Yubing also spotted He Chen and greeted him familiarly. This made Zhao Tianyu almost stare out of his eyes. "Brother Chen, you can do it." He quietly glanced at Lu Yunfei and saw that Lu Yunfei didn't notice this, and then said, "When did you meet these two beauties? Why didn't I know that you knew someone from Yanjing?" He Chen said calmly, "We met in a secret place in the wild." He didn't want to explain more and found a quiet corner to meditate. At this time, there was a sudden commotion in the crowd. Zhao Tianyu and others stretched their necks to look over. It turned out that there was a conflict between students from the Yanjing examination area and students from the Magic City examination area. Because the first task is to build a defense line on this city wall to resist the attack of Warcraft. The Yanjing examination area has the largest number of students and their levels are generally very high, so they have to be the main force and garrison the eastern front. However, the Modu examination area was not bad either, with a total of 26 students, second only to the Yanjing examination area. They also wanted to occupy the main attack position, and the two parties clashed. "Hey, dear, how did those students in Yanjing get promoted?" There are actually quite a few of them reaching level 18. The base level is all level 15, and levels 16 and 7 can be found almost everywhere. The Magic City examination area isn't bad either. Don't talk about the Magic City examination area, there are also many level 18s in the Nanling examination area. You don't know this, right? Those are the children of a big family, and they have the support of big forces behind them. How can they be like us mud-legged people? I heard that since the first day of awakening, there have been several masters with them. They only have the king level, and they can just follow behind to gain experience. No way, why is it so easy to grind the king level? Besides, there are level restrictions in the secret realm. No matter how powerful the master is, he can't keep grinding, right? Who told you that they are in the secret realm? Who told you that they only have a group of masters to lead them? That is, I'm going to the abyss. There are no level restrictions at all. I'm led by several masters in their 50s and 60s. Gaining experience is just like playing. I'll go, isn't this cheating? Yeah, what can you do? If you have the ability, you can find some experts at level 50 or 60 to help you do it. No one will stop you. Level 50. My dear, the city lord over there is only level 50. Where can I find him? I heard that the most powerful ones reached level 12 on the first day of their awakening. Hiss. It's so annoying to compare people to each other. He Chen listened to all the voices of the people around him. Before, he had also wondered why Lin Yubing and Li Jing, both of whom had such high levels, had such huge resources despite not having much combat experience. Pour into yourself. When he met each other, it should be the stage when the two of them had upgraded their levels and accumulated combat experience. Compared to professionals like them who need to work their way up to level 1, it is really unfair. But, where is the fairness in this world? Some people have a main battle profession and can become famous on the battlefield, becoming kings and prime ministers. Some people have a living career, struggling at the bottom of society, barely making ends meet. At the moment of awakening, everyone is destined to be divided into 3, 6 or 9 levels. So at this moment, hearing the jealous complaints around him, He Chen shook his head slightly, feeling that he couldn't fit in. In his opinion, those who can stand here are already the handful of people standing at the top of the pyramid in each examination area. Blindly complaining about themselves will only make themselves lose the courage to move forward. In the end, several examination areas determined each other's positions by drawing lots. He Chen's Shan team was assigned to the north and was responsible for guarding the north gate to resist the monsters attacking from the river valley. There are 6 other teams here. The largest one is the Kunlun team, with 12 people. They naturally take the lead and divide each person's position in detail. The Imperial Academy sent 4 examiners above level 40 and 1 level 54 to supervise the battle. Seeing that the student camps had been drawn up, the 54th level examiner jumped up and stood on the tower, scanning all the students with an imposing manner. Everyone, starting from 12 o'clock tonight, you will officially enter combat mode, and monsters will come in a steady stream at any time. There is only one thing you have to do, and that is to save your lives. This battle lasts for 10 days. During this period, no examiner will take action. If the city gate is breached early, the exam will end early, and when the points are calculated, everyone will be halved. By the way, let me tell you some good news. The points gained from this battle are not only related to your ranking, but can also be taken into any school and redeemed for corresponding resources. There is no need to worry about auxiliary professions. Supercomputer detection is everywhere. As long as you participate in the battle, points will be distributed according to your contribution. This is not just an exam. Don't forget, this is the battlefield of hundreds of tribes, a battlefield of hundreds of tribes full of blood and death. From the first moment you come here, you are already in danger. If you are in the battle, if you die, your name will appear on the death list. Finally, I would like to remind you that the role of a team is far greater than that of an individual. Don't think about being in the spotlight, it will kill you. After saying that, he left with several other examiners. The students breathed a sigh of relief and immediately gathered together to discuss. Lin Ju suggested that everyone discuss tactics. Their Shan team had to guard a city wall of 30 meters, which was not too much, but the pressure should not be underestimated. At this time, someone suddenly came over. Whose name is He Chen? The person who came was called Ji Yuyi, a level 17 professional stone giant who was also the captain of the Kunlun team. He was responsible for guarding the North City Gate and was the nominal, supreme leader, of the teams. I am, He Chen said calmly. Ji Yuyi looked at He Chen with a look of interest in his eyes. Not bad, there is actually a complete set of blue equipment. It is really something. I heard that your auxiliary skills are domain types. That's right, that's just right. Ji Yuyi waved his hand. Come to my place, join my team, and help us guard the city gate. He Chen frowned, shook his head and said, I reject. Ji Yuyi was startled and his face darkened. He Chen, don't be disrespectful. I let you join my team to give you face. If you follow us, you will enjoy the good life. If you stay here, you won't get many points at all. The position assigned by Ji Yuyi to the Shan team was indeed not good. Not only did they have to be at the front and bear the impact of the wave of monsters, but they also did not take much advantage. On the contrary, the team at the back could concentrate their efforts to deal with the diverted group of monsters. I won't stay here to garrison either. He Chen pointed outside the city. I'm going out of town. He Chen's words immediately caused an uproar, and all nearby students looked over. Out of the city, did I hear you correctly? Is he crazy? Ha ha ha, does he think this is playing house? This is a battlefield for hundreds of tribes. Are you so anxious to seek death? I heard he's still an assistant. It's so funny. Isn't this crazy? There were constant discussions around him, but He Chen turned a deaf ear and looked directly at Ji Yuyi. Ji Yuyi looked in disbelief. He Chen, you want to leave the city? Are you kidding me? He Chen shook his head slightly. Of course I'm not joking. I remember that in the regulations, there is no requirement to form a team, and there are no arrangements for defensive formations. So I choose to go out of the city and take the initiative to fight against the monsters. Is there any problem? Ji Yuyi looked at He Chen blankly for a while before he took a deep breath. Okay, very good, He Chen, you are indeed a thorn. He could see that He Chen was not joking, but was really going to leave the city. He sneered, since you want to die, fine, then I will help you. He said to his younger brothers. Open the city gate and let him out. What? Several younger brothers were shocked. Brother Ji Yu, do you really want him to leave? Wouldn't this make our northern defense line even weaker? If the examiner knows, will he blame us? The younger brothers looked at each other and wanted to persuade Ji Yuyi, but Ji Yuyi's face turned cold. Why, don't you even listen to what I say? The younger brothers were startled and did not dare to speak anymore, and hurriedly carried out Ji Yuyi's order. The city gate was slowly opened. Ji Yuyi's eyes were full of ridicule. He Chen, someone originally told me that you were not bad and asked me to take you with me. It seems that you are nothing more than that. You can't carve out rotten wood. You have no idea what the battlefield of hundreds of tribes means. When you are trapped in a tight siege, you know, regret is of no use at all. He Chen glanced at him and said calmly, in your opinion, it's a matter of death, but in my opinion, it's just a matter of getting rid of you burdensome people. Ji Yuyi was trembling with anger. As the captain of the Kunlun team, he has enjoyed so much glory and admiration, yet someone dares to call him a burden. You simply don't know what to say. Ji Yuyi was trembling with anger, and his whole body was full of momentum. If there weren't so many people here, he would even want to teach He Chen a lesson. Zhao Tianyu walked over laughing. Who is it that you don't know? With your level, you still want to command me, Brother Chen, to have your big dreams. He came to He Chen's side and patted his chest. Isn't it just a tide of beasts? What's there to be afraid of? Brother Chen, I'll go with you. And I. Lu Yunfei also stood up. Immediately afterwards, Lin Ju also took a step forward. Although he did not speak, his eyes were extremely firm. Ever since he was defeated by He Chen, he was completely convinced. If you can't beat him, then join. Only by staying by He Chen's side can you possibly surpass He Chen. Nuo Wei was a little scared, but in the end she gritted her teeth and took a step forward, standing behind He Chen. She comes from an ordinary background and has average talent. It is very likely that she will not achieve much in this life. She can reach this point only by luck, but she wants to give it a try. All 5 members of the Shan team stood up, except for the last person. Jai Tianjin chose to give up. He is an A-level talent. As long as he is stable, he can go anywhere. There is no need to go out and take risks with He Chen. Ji Yuyi's face turned pale. He turned around and walked away, then stopped after a few steps. You are going to die. Do whatever you want. Don't think about how important you are. Without you, we can still defend the northern front. He strode away and rearranged his defensive lines. He Chen turned around and looked at Zhao Tianyu and others. Originally, he planned to do it alone, but since Zhao Tianyu and the others were so loyal, he just took it with him. Zhao Tianyu bared his big teeth and put his arm on He Chen's shoulder. Brother Chen, we can rely on you this time. He Chen smiled and looked at a few people. Let's go. As early as when the examiner said that points could be brought into the school, He Chen had already had the idea of swiping alone. He has heard that in schools, points play a far more important role than crystal coins. As long as you have enough points, you can even ask a king-level being to take action. Maybe we can mobilize the resources of the school to cure my sister. Although Wu Yangfeng said that he would help him treat his sister, He Chen never placed his hope on others. Wu Yangfeng was the most reliable, and even if he didn't help, He Chen wouldn't blame him, because it was his own business. Curing his sister is his responsibility and his wish. So even if Ji Yuyi didn't come to find him, He Chen still had to leave the city. Brother Chen. Zhao Tianyu stretched out his hand, so proud. Let the name of our Shan team resound throughout the battlefield of hundreds of tribes. That's right. Nuo Wei blushed and put her hand up. Lin Ju said, passive defense has never been my style. I want to kill those monsters until they tremble. Lu Yunfei smiled and said, I really don't know why I suddenly jumped in and joined in, but I don't like defense either. Waiting for the monsters to attack the city, waiting for us to kill all the monsters, where will the beast tide come from? The 4 people's hands were already together. He Chen smiled slightly and also put his hands up. Since you believe in me, you will be my teammates from now on. Everyone looked at each other with a tacit smile on their lips. Not far away, Jai Tianjin silently looked at the team that was attracting the attention of countless people. There were only 5 people in it, but they seemed to be the center of the world. He felt as if he had missed something. Until He Chen's team left the city gate and gradually disappeared on the horizon, Jai Tianjin suddenly felt a thump in his heart. He rushed out of the city gate crazily, chasing and shouting, "Take me, take me." However, He Chen's team had already disappeared. Jai Tianjin stopped and squatted on the ground panting, his face full of loneliness. The hesitation just now may become the decision he regrets most in his life. Quack! Several magical beasts that looked like pterosaurs flew across the sky, their cries were unpleasant, like mourning. Jai Tianjin raised his head and looked at the monsters. His dull eyes gradually became colorful. He suddenly thought of something and immediately rushed up to the highest hill nearby. Looking at the sky, a black line gradually becomes obvious. Jai Tianjin's face gradually stiffened, filled with fear. That's a magical beast. The overwhelming monsters covered the sky, and gradually evolved from a line into a torrent that covered the sky and the sun. Jai Tianjin swallowed hard, turned his head, and shouted at the top of his lungs. The beast tide is coming. Brother Chen, is this the beast tide? On a hill somewhere, He Chen and the others looked at the sky and saw the tide of beasts. Overwhelming and boundless, this is the most intuitive feeling of several people. Countless, impossible to count. This number of monsters would probably give a real army a headache, right? The only good news is that the level of these monsters is not high, generally below level 20, and less than 1% of the monsters are above level 20. But in terms of the horror of the entire beast tide, 1% is terrifying enough. Zhao Tianyu was a little lucky. Fortunately, he followed He Chen out. If you stay in the city, your life or death will really be uncertain. Lin Ju's face was solemn. I didn't expect that the student team has just been assembled and will encounter such a large-scale beast tide. The battlefield of hundreds of tribes is really terrifying. Lu Yunfei observed the beast tide with a telescope-like prop and said, "After all, we are still students, so the level of the beast tide is not high. Relying on the defense of the city wall, various magic tools, and magic cannons, we should be able to defend it, but casualties are definitely inevitable." He Chen was also thinking. By now, he could fully feel the urgency of those above. They were almost impatient to train these students as soon as possible. To this end, they do not hesitate to use the most cruel methods to survive and eliminate the fittest. After experiencing the baptism of war, as long as these students survive, no matter what their profession, they will shine on the battlefield in the future. They are all students who can climb to the top of the tower, and all of them are outstanding. After experiencing a real war and selecting the best among the best, it is conceivable that perhaps at some point in the future, the names of this group of students will be resounding throughout the world, ethnic battlefield. And this is also the real intention of the Imperial Academy in arranging this trial. After observing for a while, several people found a secret place to avoid being discovered by the beast tide. Nuo Wei and Zhao Tianyu were very lucky. Fortunately, they came out. Otherwise, in their previous positions, they would have to face the impact of a beast tide of this size. He Chen was also thinking. The beast swarm seems extremely dangerous, but the academy will never really trap these students to the last few like raising poisonous insects. Maintaining a certain level of difficulty is called a trial. If there is no hope at all, it is a desperate situation. Maybe, among this wave of beasts, there should have been some very high-level monsters, but they had been killed in advance. It is even possible that the formation of this wave of beasts was intentional on the part of the academy. In this case, there is a lot of room for improvement. A plan gradually formed in He Chen's mind, and he called Zhao Tianyu and others over. After telling several people about their conjectures, Lu Yunfei and others all fell into deep thought. He Chen, are you saying that the beast tide won't last long and there won't be too powerful a boss later? Lin Ju said. He Chen nodded. Yes, this is just a trial. The beast tide is likely to surround the city wall for 3 days or longer, fighting the students for a long time. If this is really the case, then we might as well go behind the beast tide. Zhao Tianyu was puzzled. Others would avoid the beast tide, so why did He Chen want to join in? Brother Chen, will this put a sheep in the tiger's mouth? He Chen smiled lightly. Have you forgotten what we were going to do when we left the city? Zhao Tianyu was stunned. He Chen continued. We came out not to avoid disaster, but to take the initiative to kill the monster. And now, isn't the monster right in front of us? Lu Yunfei guessed He Chen's intention. Do you think the mantis stalks the cicada and the oriole leaves behind? He Chen nodded with a smile. That's right, take the monsters retreat. Several people looked at He Chen, and then nodded solemnly. Night fell quickly. After observation, Lu Yunfei found that there was an empty window behind the beast tide, and there was no strong monster. Several people looked at each other, took out the acceleration potion sponsored by Lu Yunfei, used it, and sneaked into the night. Come on, little monster cub, come after me. Zhao Tianyu knocked over dozens of monsters, turned around and returned to the original place, making faces at the group of monsters with a mean smile on his face. There is no doubt that such a move immediately attracted the attention of a large number of monsters, who all turned around and chased Zhao Tianyu. Zhao Tianyu's body flashed, and a blue quality shield appeared on his arm. Then he used a skill, and the shield seemed to be coated with a layer of gold. It looked indestructible. After knocking over several monsters in front of him, he ran away quickly. Roar! Waves of roars of monsters were heard, and behind Zhao Tianyu, a large group of monsters were chasing after him like crazy. A magical beast that looked like a triceratops almost poked the sharp point on its nose into the loophole behind Zhao Tianyu several times. At this time, in a mountain call, He Chen put down his telescope and looked serious. There were about 100 monsters chasing after them. The large army was not alerted and was still moving forward, ready to fight. After hearing this, everyone took their positions, and Nuo Wei followed He Chen closely, applying buff status to her teammates at any time. Lin Ju lurks among the ghost monsters. As a vanguard, once the target approaches, he will immediately start a violent state. On the other side, Lu Yunfei summoned 15 elite-level Warcraft servants to outflank him. Soon, Zhao Tianyu, who was howling strangely, rushed over, with dust and sand filling the sky behind him, and more than 100 monsters chasing after him. The moment this group of monsters stepped into the mountain call, rise, He Chen's mental power had already spread out, and with a thought, the realm of the netherworld came. The billowing black air covered the sky and the sun, making the already unclear night directly invisible, but Zhao Tianyu and the others who had already formed a team with He Chen were not affected. Taking advantage of the chaos among the monsters, Zhao Tianyu turned back, laughing and running rampant, turning people upside down wherever he passed. Lin Ju activated his rage. His weapon was a two-handed giant axe. He roared and rushed into the group of monsters to chop. For a moment, the broken limbs of the monsters kept flying. Lu Yunfei led a group of monsters to surround them and cut off the retreat of the group of monsters. Lu Yunfei, surrounded by monsters, was like a queen. Every time she caught a few lone targets, she gave an order and her servants immediately pounced on them. Resolve the battle as quickly as possible. Kill the LV.12 ghost, experience value plus 844. Kill the LV.14 demon ape, experience value plus 1230. Kill the LV.11 black wizard, experience value plus 650. The experience value keeps ringing, but the frequency is not fast. After all, there are quite a lot of these monsters, and it is difficult to annihilate them in a short time. Seeing that the beast force was about to leave, He Chen couldn't care less. The moment he absorbed his energy, he directly issued an order. Red light kept lighting up the night everywhere, and as explosions continued to sound, the prompts in He Chen's ears became crazy. In less than a minute, the experience gauge increased a lot. He Chen was already not far away from being upgraded. After this wave of gains, he was only 8% away from being upgraded. Not only that, this battle actually revealed a lot of equipment and materials. Clean the battlefield and continue the pursuit in 3 minutes. He Chen gave the order, and everyone gathered up all the equipment and materials left on the battlefield and placed them with Nuo Wei first. The group of monsters just now were not very strong overall. Although there were a few elite monsters, their levels were not high, so He Chen's team did not consume much. The material drop rate is okay, equivalent to a harvest from a king-level secret realm. Most of the equipment that dropped was white equipment, about 7 or 8 pieces. There was only one green equipment and none of the blue equipment. After Nuo Wei restored everyone's health, they used the speed potion again and chased after the beast tide. Following the same pattern, Zhao Tianyu lured the monsters and others ambushed him. This time Zhao Tianyu attracted more than 60 monsters, but among them was a level 20 boss monster. He Chen personally took action and used a curse seal to eliminate it. This time the speed was faster, and it took less than 10 minutes to finish off all the monsters. The third batch of monsters attracted a large number. Zhao Tianyu knocked over a level 19 elite boss monster. The monster roared and charged over with more than 300 monsters. There were too many monsters, which exceeded the team's limit for frontal combat. He Chen implemented the second plan, using traction tactics to fight while running. Lu Yunfei led the summons of servants to divide the battlefield, and finally took nearly an hour to resolve the battle. After this battle, He Chen successfully upgraded. Name: He Chen. Occupation: Hell Controller. Level: 18, 0.2%. Spell Strength: 1587. Physical Strength: 389. Spirit: 994. Soul Power: 266. Physique: 401. Agility: 298. Power: 479. Skill 1. Realm of the Netherworld Yellow Spring. Maximum Domain Range: 360*360. Maximum number of contracted objects that can be stored: 36. Skill 2. Drain. Can cause damage equivalent to 12% of the body's spell strength per second to the target. Maximum number of targets: 9. Skill 3. Curse Seal Stacking Detonation. He Chen's strength has strengthened again, especially his mental strength, which is about to exceed 1000. The spell attack strength is also equivalent to that of a mage-type main combat professional of around level 35. After this battle, everyone was scarred and exhausted. Just before the battle, Nuo Wei had released a skill once, and used it immediately after the skill cooled down again. The role of a wet nurse is reflected here. If Novi hadn't been constantly healing and amplifying teammates, this battle would have been extremely difficult. It would be a fool's errand to resolve the battle within an hour. This was because of He Chen's presence. Without He Chen's domain skills, facing the charge of 300 monsters, everyone would have died. Ha ha ha, Brother Chen, I've upgraded. Zhao Tianyu was very excited. He had the lowest level among the people present and did not need much experience to upgrade. When he originally took the unified examination, he had just reached level 13. Now following He Chen, in less than 2 hours, the experience tank is filled up, and the level is successfully upgraded. Not only him, but Lin Ju also smiled slightly. I've also upgraded. Although Lin Ju was already at level 15 before, his experience gauge was already over half. After a battle, he was successfully upgraded. The same goes for Novi. She was originally level 14, but now she has been upgraded to level 15. Although Lu Yunfei has not upgraded, it is not much worse. Everyone upgraded together, which improved the overall strength of He Chen's team a lot. In addition, you can also gain a lot of points, because it is a team battle, and the points will only start to be counted after the battle is over. Soon, the points began to be calculated, and He Chen was awarded a full 200 points, which was more than everyone combined. The points distribution mechanism is absolutely fair, which shows that He Chen's contribution in the battle exceeds that of everyone else. Lin Ju, 64 points. Lu Yunfei, 72 points. Zhao Tianyu, 45 points. Novi, 51 points. Everyone was very happy, except Zhao Tianyu, who had a sad face. I risked my life to attract monsters, but the points I got were not as many as those of a wet nurse. My life is so miserable. Everyone laughed and said nothing. Zhao Tianyu did play a big role, but he was good at defense and average in attack power. Less than 10 monsters died in his hands, and he was able to score 45 points, which was already pretty good. And Novi continued to release skills throughout the whole process, which increased the combat effectiveness and battery life of her teammates by at least 10%, and it was reasonable to score 51 points. Rest where you are first. He Chen took out his telescope and climbed up a dead tree to observe the movements of the beast tide. The overall speed of the beast tide is not very fast. After all, if it is a long-distance attack, the monsters will be exhausted and paralyzed by the time they reach the city wall. When Zhao Tianyu didn't take the initiative to provoke them, the beast force would maintain the most energy-saving method and move forward unhurriedly. They were now less than 10 kilometers away from the defense point where the students were stationed. The students standing on the city wall could clearly see the beast tide at this moment. The black monsters trampled everything they passed into flat ground. All the big trees and boulders were turned into dust, and no grass could grow. Preliminary estimates put the number at least 100,000. But at this time, the beast tide began to disperse without any warning. The beast tide that originally came from one direction split into two, and then split into four. The middle one still followed the original route, while the other three bypassed the sand dunes and rock walls. One stream entered the dry river valley, and the other stream stepped on the yellow sand in the sky, blocking the north and south directions of the defensive point respectively. The last group of warcraft, numbering more than 20,000, gathered on the western front of the defensive point. This direction was the Gobi area, and the hard ground was the most suitable for warcraft to launch an attack. After the beast tide completely surrounded the defensive point, the atmosphere suddenly became tense. He Chen glanced at the time. It was still 1 hour until midnight. At this time, Lu Yunfei also climbed up the tree and whispered. After investigation, the quicksand area in the south is the most unfavorable to warcraft. Large warcraft can easily fall into it. Small ones will also have an impact on their speed. But for us, it's okay. The speed reduction is within 5%. He Chen nodded. Fighting. The moonlight was like mercury flowing on the vast battlefield. He Chen led the team to the rear of the monster on the southern front. The team did not launch an attack immediately, but used the shadow of the sand dunes to observe the group of monsters in the dark. He Chen's face turned a little pale, and big beads of sweat dripped from his temples. Zhao Tianyu said with some worry. Brother Chen, don't be too forced. He Chen didn't speak, and his body exuded powerful mental energy fluctuations, which made Lu Yunfei and others who were close at hand feel as if a big stone was pressing on their chests. Such terrifying fluctuations in mental power made Lu Yunfei more intuitively aware of the gap in strength between herself and He Chen. She was a mage-type main combat profession and was best at mental power. However, in front of He Chen, she felt that her mental power was weak. Power is like a waterweed floating in the ocean. At this time, in the field released by He Chen, the goblin leader was screaming, which consumed a lot of He Chen's mental energy and made He Chen almost overdrawn at the moment. But the results are also shocking. At this moment, in He Chen's domain, demonized goblins appeared one after another, crowded together, at least 500 of them. This number can even affect the situation on a front. However, He Chen was still not satisfied. The goblin leader continued to summon demonized goblins. Under He Chen's will, the summoned demonized goblins walked up the hill one after another and spread throughout the quicksand area. Then there was digging and digging and digging in the little dunes. The demonized goblin buried himself in it. 1 meter apart, just like planting trees. This is the passive ability of the demonized goblin and the optimal distance for the demonic energy to infiltrate. That's right, He Chen has no intention of confronting the beasts head-on. Are you kidding? There are only a few hundred monsters in his area, which is less than 1% of the number of monsters. Even on the southern front, which is unfavorable to fighting monsters, there are more than 20,000 monsters. You can't beat him head-on. If he really wanted to attack rashly and penetrate from behind the herd, once the monsters from the other 3 directions surrounded him, everyone except He Chen would be dead. So He Chen planned to use a little strategy. Although his battle plan sounds absolutely crazy to Lu Yunfei and others. But He Chen is looking forward to it. He Chen used this tactic before in the wild secret realm. At that time, in the secret cat demon territory, He Chen used this method to sweep away the cat demons in the entire secret realm. That's right, it's demonization. He Chen's crazy plan is that he wants to demonize the entire beast tide. After killing 3 waves of monsters before, everyone upgraded together. If they could eat all the 100,000 monsters in the entire wave. Even He Chen couldn't help but take a breath after thinking about that result. There is no doubt that the strength of the entire team, including him, will undergo earth-shaking changes. Although the team members were shocked by He Chen's plan, they did not object. After all, He Chen has thought of almost all the details, and this plan is very feasible. When they thought that with just 5 of them, they could eat the entire beast tide, everyone felt so excited that they trembled with excitement. Finally, when the demonized goblin numbered 800, the goblin leader stopped calling. He Chen's temples were beating suddenly. He endured the severe pain, took a deep breath, took out a bottle of potion to replenish his mental power and drank it, and then said to several people. Implementation plan. The 4 teammates looked at each other, nodded in unison, and immediately took their positions. This time it was Lin Ju who was responsible for attracting the monsters. Lin Ju, after going berserk, broke into the herd of beasts and killed whoever stood in his way. In the blink of an eye, he overturned a large group of monsters and successfully caused a commotion behind the group of monsters. The densely packed monsters rushed towards Lin Ju like crazy. Lin Ju no longer wanted to fight, turned around and ran away, leading them to the quicksand area in the center of the next door. He Chen and others set up an ambush there. From the perspective of the sky, a trumpet-shaped flow port appeared in the black beast tide. The fastest dozens of monsters were less than 10 meters away from Lin Shu. Behind these monsters, more and more monsters were being pulled, and thousands of them were already involved in the pursuit. There are thousands of monsters around, and there is already a commotion, and they are about to join in. Lin Shu ran for more than 10 kilometers in one breath, pulling the chasing monsters into a long line. Soon, he broke into the quicksand area and began to follow the originally explored route to avoid the quicksand pits that could be seen everywhere. The pursuing monsters were hindered and their number decreased a bit, but they still pursued Lin Shu tightly. When the number of magical beasts entering the quicksand area exceeded 200, Zhao Tianyu and Lu Yunfei suddenly appeared and forcibly intercepted the continuing influx of magical beasts. At this time, everyone's nerves were highly tense. They were dancing on the edge of a knife. If they were not careful, the whole army might be annihilated. But no one flinched at all. Taking advantage of the time bought by Zhao Tianyu and Lu Yunfei, Lin Ju finally led the more than 200 monsters behind him to the sand dune area where the ambush had been set up in advance. He Chen's eyes moved, and red halos appeared on several monsters. Take it. The throbbing in his temples calmed down a little. He was fed back by the absorption, and his headache was greatly relieved. He Chen did not dare to neglect, and with a thought in his heart, the realm of the netherworld, full power state, was turned on. Billowing black air filled the wilderness, and the ghost monsters opened their scarlet eyes and joined the battle. The Ice Queen slowly rose into the sky. Ice and snow, come. The group of Warcraft was originally affected by the quicksand, and its movement speed was slowed down a lot. In addition, He Chen's domain suppression and the speed reduction in the ice realm made the Warcraft trapped in the domain at this time as if the TV series had turned on 0.2x speed. Generally, movement becomes extremely slow. The health bars on the heads of the monsters turned gray at a speed visible to the naked eye. The goblins lurking under the quicksand are like dense sources of pollution, giving these monsters nowhere to hide, and they are continuously being demonized wherever they go. Finally, as the first monster was successfully demonized, like dominoes being toppled, the demonized state spread rapidly. In just 5 minutes, all the monsters were successfully transformed. More than 200 prompts for killing monsters sounded one after another. The group of monsters that were originally extremely violent and roaring gradually became quiet. He Chen immediately issued the second order. At this moment, Zhao Tianyu and Lu Yunfei, who were responsible for intercepting the group of monsters, had reached their limit. Facing more and more monsters coming from behind, the two of them were under too much pressure. Zhao Tianyu, who was screaming wildly as he was being chased by a group of monsters, finally received the long-awaited order and turned around and rushed towards the sand dunes. Brother Chen, help! Dust was flying in the sky behind him, and there were more than 300 monsters chasing him. The moment the group of monsters set foot on the hill, the group of monsters that had been demonized before rushed forward. Behind, Lin Shu, who was resting, and Lu Yunfei, who had regained his health, continued to press forward, blocking the monsters behind. It's a big free-for-all. On one side were more than 200 demonized beasts, and on the other side were a group of demonic beasts filled with doubts as to why the demonic beasts of the same race suddenly turned against each other. But after they reacted, they began to open their mouths mercilessly and kill every monster that dared to attack them. At the same time, the 800 sources of pollution caused by the demonized goblins hiding under the quicksand are still demonizing the new incoming monsters. In just 5 minutes this time, except for dozens of monsters that died, all other monsters were successfully transformed. Immediately afterwards, Lu Yunfei went around in circles and brought over the third batch of magical beasts. Liu Yunfei was under great pressure, with more than 500 monsters chasing him. The servants she summoned were already dead in one round, and the servants in the second round were also covered in wounds and were about to be unable to hold on. Liu Yunfei's face turned pale and she gritted her teeth as she finally reached the scheduled ambush point. This is a big melee with thousands of monsters. Originally they were evenly matched, and it was difficult to tell the winner for a while, but as demonized goblins emerged from the sand dunes and joined the battlefield one after another, the battle began to show a one-sided trend. Brother Chen, how much longer does it take? We can't hold it anymore. Zhao Tianyu and Lin Shu were unable to resist, and a large number of magical beasts were rolling in. Such a big movement here in the sand dune has caused more than 20,000 monsters on the front line to stir up excitement. At this moment, more and more monsters heard the sound and came. Zhao Tianyu, Liu Yunfei, and Lin Zhu were trying their best to resist, trying to divide the battlefield so that He Chen could have enough time to devour the group of monsters that had just broken in. However, there were too many monsters, and they were about to die. Can't stand it. He Chen glanced at the battlefield. The demonic beasts in the domain have not yet been demonized, but Lin Shu and the three of them will definitely not be able to last for such a long time. After a short period of thinking, He Chen made a bold decision. All the explosive ghost monsters gathered at the edge of the field, and He Chen gave Liu Yunfei and the others a retreat order. The three people immediately turned around and entered He Chen's territory, but He Chen used black energy to cover them up. The group of monsters lost their target and began to rush left and right, scurrying around. The speed of the incoming monsters was greatly reduced the moment they stepped into He Chen's territory, but the monsters that followed behind didn't know it and still roared forward, causing a stampede. Just as the crowd of overturned monsters gathered more and more, He Chen's ghost monsters surrounded them, emitting a captivating red light, like a bonfire in the dark night. Next moment, boom, report to the captain, there is something strange about the beast tide, it seems to be retreating. Half an hour ago, the southern front. Responsible for guarding here are 12 teams from 5 examination areas, a total of 68 students. The temporary highest command is in the hands of the first team in the Chishu team examination area. The captain is called Luoni, who is a level 17 professional sit guard. After discovering the strange movement of the beast tide, she immediately boarded the watchtower to guard against an early attack by the beast tide. But what she didn't expect was that instead of approaching the defense point, the beast tide seemed to be retreating. No. Not right. Ronnie used a high-power telescope to observe that the source of the commotion in the beast tide was at the rear. The beast tide in the middle was slightly affected, while the ones in the front showed no movement and were still moving towards the defensive point. After some searching, she suddenly discovered that someone was attacking the beast wave from behind. This is where the commotion of the beast tide comes from. Who is it that wants to die? The distance was too far, so she couldn't see the other party's information even with the detection medal, but judging from the other party's clothing, she judged that the other party was also a student participating in the unified examination. Next to it, the deputy captain immediately went to investigate and would be back soon. Captain, this afternoon, a team from the northern front left. If nothing else, it was this team that caused the beast tide to move. Ronnie took a sharp breath. Northern front, Ji Yuyi. Is he crazy? Didn't he let that team die? Is he a pig? If the Imperial College tracks him down, he will be punished. The vice captain shook his head. I heard that it was that team that asked to go out. Everyone was present at the time. Ronnie sneered. Take the initiative. Who would take the initiative to go out and die? That guy Ji Yuyi is narrow-minded and short-sighted. He must be forcing me secretly. I will definitely report this matter to the examiner. The vice captain sighed and then asked. Captain, what should we do? Are we going to rescue them? Ronnie was silent. Save. What can she do to save her? Whenever they dare to open the city gate, it is equivalent to actively giving up their defensive advantage. The impact of more than 20,000 monsters will destroy their battle line in an instant. Not only that, she also had to bear the responsibility for the entire defensive point being lost. This is still possible. There is a high probability that all the students on the entire defense line will be buried with her. So this is not a question of whether to save or not, but a question of whether there is a brain or not. As soon as Ronnie stretched out her hand, the vice captain knowingly handed over a lady's cigarette, then lit it, and Ronnie took a deep breath. They have also helped us relieve a lot of pressure. We will go back and check their names. In addition to reporting them to the Imperial College, we also have to make a gesture and give some compensation to their families. The vice captain nodded. At this time, the students from the observation post ran over to report. Captain, the tide of beasts has become more violent. What? Ronnie looked at the time and couldn't believe how tenacious that team was. It had not been swallowed up by the beast tide for such a long time, but instead made a bigger noise. She immediately went up to the lookout post. Through the telescope, she once again saw the professional who was holding a shield and running around like a fool. Not only that, there was one more person, a rare professional summoner. He was surrounded by a lot of elite servants, but in the face of the completely overwhelming beast tide, he could only flee and panic. Ronnie was very confused. Since the opponent's team could last for such a long time, it meant that they were fully capable of escaping. But instead of leaving, they kept struggling with the monsters in the beast tide, which she couldn't understand. She sent people over to negotiate with the Northern Front and investigate more detailed information about that team. Ji Yuyi did not hide it, and directly sent Jai Tianjin over to explain the situation to Ronnie. He Chen. Ronnie frowned and looked at Jai Tianjin. Which aristocratic family does he come from? A famous aristocratic family in Shan Province should not have a surname. Jai Tianjin shook his head. He's not from aristocratic family, he comes from Linjiang, a third-tier city. Several aristocratic families there are all ordinary. Only one of the Liu family has some strength. Ronnie nodded and asked again, is he very powerful? What is his profession? He is the auxiliary profession Hell Master, but it is a mutated auxiliary profession. It is very powerful, more powerful than many rare main battle professions. Jai Tianjin was completely convinced of He Chen's strength. In fact, as he came to the battlefield of hundreds of tribes and his horizons gradually broadened, he understood even more how terrifying He Chen was. Assistant. Ronnie's expression was very strange. This was the first time she heard someone say that the auxiliary profession was actually more powerful than the main combat profession. If that's the case, why would you call it an auxiliary? However, it also made her more interested. It is absolutely impossible for an auxiliary profession to become the captain of the only team in a certain examination area unless there is support from a big force behind it. Anyway, nothing like this has ever happened in history. But it turned out that He Chen broke the rules and a dark horse with no background turned out to be. You can go now. Ronnie waved her hand. After Jai Tianjin left, Luo Ni called the deputy captain over and asked, "What do you think?" The vice captain pondered for a while and shook his head. "I don't quite understand. Maybe I need to really experience it before I can know whether this mutant auxiliary profession is really so powerful." He noticed that Ronnie's eyes were shining differently, and he felt a thump in his heart. "Captain, don't do this. Ronnie is famous for her boldness, and of course, her strength is undoubted. Her skill is to release a phantom of the sickle guard to cover herself in battle. The attack power is extremely terrifying, and the longest attack distance can even reach 200 meters. In previous battles, Ronnie didn't need to move at all. As soon as her mind moved, Kamei took action and swept directly. There were few opponents that could not be dealt with. Seeing the wrong look on Ronnie's face, the vice captain had a bad feeling. Sure enough, Ronnie showed a sly smile and motioned for her to keep her voice down. "Don't worry, I'm sure. After I leave, the command here will be handed over to you. Don't worry, I'm just going to see what those guys are doing." The vice captain shook his head with a firm attitude. No, Ronnie wanted to discuss it with her good sisters, but at this moment, a light suddenly flashed in the distant sky. The two men turned their heads suddenly, with shock on their faces. Behind the beast tide, flames filled the sky, and a huge mushroom cloud with a diameter of more than 100 meters rose into the air. The violent sound like thunder came after several seconds. Boom! The sky seemed to explode, and that huge explosion tore a hole in the dark night. The ground was shaking slightly, which completely aroused the beast herds on the southern front, and they all turned around and rushed towards the direction of the explosion. On the city wall, the professionals who were still prepared were dumbfounded. What's the situation? How did the beast tide go away? So will they fight tonight? Everyone looked at Ronnie, waiting for her instructions. At this moment, Ronnie's heart felt like a cat scratching her, itching terribly. She had a strong intuition that the explosion just now was definitely caused by the Sean team. With such terrifying power, I am afraid it can kill hundreds of monsters at once. She couldn't wait to see what happened. Moreover, now that the beast tide has receded, why is she still here? Okay, it's settled, now you are the supreme commander here, I'm leaving first. Ronnie said to the vice captain, and without waiting for the other party to reply, she rushed down from the city wall. The explosion of ghost monsters not only blocked the chasing beast tide, but also caused everyone's experience gauge to skyrocket. Lu Yunfei finally reached level 16. The bad news is that the beast tide on the entire southern front has been alerted and is coming here. However, before the large army arrived, He Chen finally demonized all the monsters that had just entered the domain. Now his army of demonized beasts has exceeded 2,000. More than 2,000 demonized beasts stood in the quicksand area, their eyes red, numb, and emotionless. Facing the same kind that rushed towards them, the bloodthirsty instinct of the demonic beasts exploded instantly. Roar! The moment the two sides came into contact, the entire battlefield was ignited like a powder keg. He Chen's face was pale and his clothes were wet with sweat. His mental power has been severely overdrawn. Even if he absorbs this skill and continuously replenishes it, it can only barely keep up with the output. There is simply no way to restore yourself. But he gritted his teeth and said nothing. Currently, he has 800 demonized goblins, a group of ghost monsters that can explode, and over 1,000 demonized beasts. Although the number is less than 1/10 of the beast tide, coupled with the geographical conditions here and the blessing of the realm of the netherworld, for a time it was as good as the beast tide that came in large numbers. Nuo Wei's body exudes a green light, and an imperceptible thin line connects the four teammates He Chen, Lu Yunfei, Zhao Tianyu, and Lin Ju. Her clothes were soaked through, and the sweat evaporated, forming a white mist on the top of her head. Her hair was scattered and stuck to her forehead, and she couldn't spare any time to tidy it up. She held various potions to replenish her mental power in one hand and kept pouring them into her mouth. She held a forearm-long staff in the other hand and used normal attacks to repel the monsters that jumped in front of her. Even Nuo Wei, the nanny-type support who was hiding behind, had to attack, and it was so difficult, desperately squeezing her own potential, let alone Lin Ju and others. Lin Ju and Zhao Tianyu were at the forefront, fighting bloody battles. Their bodies were in tatters and covered with blood, and they were completely red-eyed. Nuo Wei's blessing and potion replenishment could not keep up with their consumption. Now, in addition to moving and dodging, the two of them used ordinary attacks to fight against the monsters, because all attributes were nearly exhausted and they could not use their skills at all. Lu Yunfei is slightly better. She is not a melee professional, so she can just let the summoned servants fight. Even so, Lu Yunfei's face was frighteningly pale at the moment, and his physical strength and attributes were approaching their limits. They are all at the end of their tether. He Chen thought for a moment, asked his teammates to retreat, rested temporarily to replenish their health, and commanded his ghost monster group to go up and fight fiercely with the beast tide. Compared with the demonized beast core, the ghost demonic beast is more smooth to command. After all, the ghost monster is directly taking orders from He Chen and can issue orders with just a thought. However, the demonized beast army has to issue orders through the goblin leader. With the IQ of the goblins, there will be some misunderstandings, so the demonized beast army is inevitably unsatisfactory in many aspects. In addition, He Chen also discovered that the speed at which the beast tide was being demonized and contaminated was not ideal. Demonized goblins can still quickly contaminate ordinary monsters, but when the polluted monsters go on to demonize other monsters, their speed begins to slow down. It is probably about a demonized goblin contaminating a demonic beast, which requires about 1 minute of contact. The demonized demonic beast can be called a generation of demonized beasts. For one generation of demonized beasts to contaminate other demonic beasts, it will take 2 minutes for a second generation of demonized beasts to appear. It takes 4 minutes for a second generation demonized beast to contaminate other demonic beasts, and so on. Coupled with the rapid changes on the battlefield, dozens or even hundreds of monsters were killed every moment. Although the beast tide was constantly being demonized, the demonized beasts and the goblin core also suffered heavy casualties. Animal blood of various colors almost dyed the quicksand area into colorful, disgusting graffiti on the ground. Compared with the huge beast tide, He Chen's troop strength was less than 1/10, but relying on the advantages of terrain and domain, the battlefield situation maintained a delicate balance. This balance won't last long, because He Chen was still trying his best to squeeze himself out and let the goblin leader continue to summon demonized goblins. Moreover, once the ghost monster is killed in battle, it will immediately reappear. On the contrary, the tide of beasts is constantly consuming. In addition to the warcraft that are fighting to death, there are also many warcraft that are gradually becoming demonized. Once the tide of beasts is consumed excessively, He Chen will immediately gain the upper hand and reverse the situation of the battle. He is racing against time. If the beast tides from the other three directions surge and before the beast tide is overconsumed, He Chen will fall short. He Chen didn't blink, staring at the battlefield. Roni bypassed the frontal battlefield, gradually approached from the edge of the gobi, and reached the vicinity of the quicksand area. Originally she just wanted to find out what this team was doing, but the scene in front of her made her doubt her life. In her vision, this team would most likely find an excellent spot to get stuck, which would protect their own safety while still waiting for the enemy. This was the only reasonable explanation she could think of. But the scene before her eyes directly overturned her understanding. The opponent took advantage of the natural negative buff that slowed down the speed of the quicksand area to hold back the World of Warcraft. Other than that, there was no geographical advantage, let alone the blocking position she imagined. It's not about luring a few monsters to gain experience, but actually fighting the entire beast wave head-on. Moreover, there is no sign of weakness. In the endless quicksand area, the screams of monsters shook the sky, their stumps flew around, and the blood soaked the yellow sand, almost destroying this quicksand area. The fighting between the two sides was concentrated in the area shrouded in black air, and the remains of dead monsters were everywhere. The quicksand is constantly swallowing up the dead monsters, but it can't keep up with the speed of the monsters' death. The quicksand is somewhat powerless and is gradually being filled up by the monsters. As that human being, Rani was stunned. The scene before her eyes was deeply imprinted in her mind and she would never forget it. It was completely unimaginable to her that just a small team could achieve such a level in the face of such a huge wave of monsters. This is beyond the scope of human power. After a brief shock, Rani's curiosity became even stronger. Looking at the area filled with black energy so close to her, Roni hesitated and walked in. He Chen suddenly looked somewhere, his eyes a little strange. His teammates who had just recovered a little gathered around him, and Lu Yunfei asked, "What's wrong?" He Chen raised his chin. "Over there, someone came in. Human. Who? I don't know him, but he should be the same as us. A student too. Haha, there are really some people who are not afraid of death. Brother Chen, shall I bring him back to you?" He Chen thought for a moment, nodded and said, "Okay." Zhao Tianyu immediately ran over and soon brought back a girl with short hair. The girl looked smart and capable. As soon as she came over, her eyes fell on He Chen and said with interest, "Are you He Chen?" He Chen nodded. Rani introduced herself. "My name is Roni. I am a level 17 professional sickle guard. I am the captain of the first team in Chishu. I am also the commander-in-chief of the Southern Front recommended by everyone." Everyone suddenly looked sideways, and they didn't expect that the pretty girl in front of them, who looked very carefree and free, was actually the top commander of the Southern Front. Zhao Tianyu stood up. "What are you doing here? What's your purpose?" Roni ignored Zhao Tianyu, took 2 steps forward, and stretched out her hand towards He Chen. "Getting acquainted." He Chen nodded and shook her hand briefly. Lu Yunfei, who was standing behind, felt as if he was facing a formidable enemy. He Chen was a little surprised, but it was normal after thinking about it. He made such a big noise, which would definitely alarm the students on the city wall. But unexpectedly, the person who came to investigate was actually the highest commander of the Southern Front. "It's very dangerous here. You'd better get back to the city wall as soon as possible." Rani put down her hand a little disappointed, looked around and asked, "He Chen, you are so courageous. We are all nervous to death, for fear that the city wall will be destroyed by the beast tide. How dare you attack? Is that guy Ji Yuyi bullying you?" He Chen did not deny his boldness, but he was too lazy to throw dirty water on Ji Yuyi. We asked for it on our own initiative. Rather than guarding the city wall with those burdens, it is better to take the initiative. A burden, ha ha ha, that guy Ji Yuyi will probably be angry to death if he knows that others treat him as a burden. Ronnie laughed so hard. Then she asked, not bad, He Chen, I really find you very interesting. How are you? Do you need any help? Before He Chen could speak, Zhao Tianyu stood up. We don't need help, you should take care of yourselves. Luo Ni didn't even look at Zhao Tianyu, treating him like nothing, which made Zhao Tianyu extremely angry. He Chen thought for a while and said, not to mention helping, it is your job to resist the beast tide. We have helped you contain the beast tide on the southern front. If you want a share of the pie, you can now choose to attack and join us in a flanking attack. But I want to remind you that voluntarily giving up the advantage of the city wall may bring devastating disaster to you. Once the monsters from the other 3 directions come, you will not be able to escape. Ronnie looked thoughtful. Indeed, this is a big piece of meat, but not everyone can take a bite. Without that strength, taking the initiative would be like a moth flying into a flame. However, looking at the battlefield that was still in full swing at this moment, Ronnie's eyes became hot again. Without a super strong field like yours, it would be really difficult to fight. How about this? We only bring some people over and enter your field to fight. This can also relieve your pressure, what do you think? He Chen didn't hesitate at all and shook his head in refusal. Are you kidding? Entering his territory to fight will not only take away a large part of his experience points, but also if things go bad, he can't even guarantee the safety of his own team, so how can he control others? But he doesn't care, the only outcome for Ronnie and others is death. Just now, he had already explained all the pros and cons clearly. The choice was Ronnie's business and had nothing to do with him. Ronnie pouted. You are such a flawless guy. You are so vigilant even if you owe someone a favor, so that others cannot take advantage of you at all. Forget it, I'm relieved to see that you're okay. We will give you some support later. I hope you can survive this beast wave safely. With that, she left the field. Zhao Tianyu came up and asked, Brother Chen, does this fool want to take advantage of us? He Chen told him not to pay attention to Ronnie's matter. Everyone, if you have a good rest, continue fighting. The beast tides from the other 3 directions will be attracted sooner or later. We must resolve the battle here as soon as possible before that. The expressions of the 4 team members immediately became serious. As expected by He Chen, the beast tides originally gathered in the other 3 directions were now affected by the fighting here, began to commotion, and gradually gathered together. The situation becomes critical. However, at this moment, the city gate in the distance opened, and many students came out pushing heavy demon cannons, and 2 charging teams crossed into the battlefield. The muzzle of the demonic cannon gathered purple energy and sprayed out a purple beam of light full of destruction. Wherever it passed, the demonic beast was directly pierced, and the power was extremely amazing. More than a dozen main combatants with long-range attacks shot arrows, bullets, spears, etc. mercilessly at the beast tide, cooperating with the charge team to kill the monsters. With the addition of these students, the tide of beasts surrounding them from other directions began to slow down. This is Ronnie's move. The opponent's tactical arrangements were very reasonable. While they attacked bravely, they also left a way out. Most of the students were not too far away from the city gate, and the 2 charging teams did not go too deep into the battlefield. The observation posts on the city wall were always keeping a close eye on the beast tide. If something unexpected happened, they could retreat as quickly as possible. He Chen pondered slightly. The girl just now seemed careless, but since she can be the supreme commander of a battle line, she should not be underestimated. After thinking briefly, He Chen immediately adjusted his strategy. He no longer retained his mental power, and once again sent out the ghost monster group to carry out explosive cleaning. Most of the demonized core had been killed and wounded, and the burden on He Chen was much lighter. After the rest just now, and the continuous use of replenishing state, He Chen was now fully able to adopt the 3rd plan. Plan No. 3. Destroyer. After the order was issued, Lin Ju, Lu Yunfei, and the demonized goblin began to shrink the battle line intentionally or unintentionally, hitting the beast tide as much as possible, while the ghost monsters took the initiative to get close to each other and self-destruct. Each one could pull in at least 10 people. Several monsters were buried with him. In the distance, Roni heard the constant explosions coming from the beast tide, and seemed to think of something. She jumped onto a huge monster body, stood on it and looked out, and saw the blossoming red light like brilliant fireworks. Explosions occur almost every few seconds, and the battlefield is full of flowers. Monsters fall one after another, and the number of monsters decreases at a speed visible to the naked eye. He-Chen, you actually hide your strength. She went to investigate before and was attracted by the huge explosion. However, when she got there, until she left, she did not see He-Chen use this trick again, and even several team members did not show their hands. He was just guarding against her. But now, she had just led the attack and had not yet gained much, but He-Chen was just killing people randomly as if he was cheating. The situation on both sides is high and low. She brought an entire front line here, 60 or 70 students fighting, equipped with echelons, fire support, and a powerful weapon such as the demon cannon transported from the city wall. But every minute, they only kill dozens of monsters. On He-Chen's side, just 5 people could kill at least 200 to 300 monsters in 1 minute. How can this compare? You call us people in the 60s and 70s, how can we be embarrassed? Not only Roni, but many students around her were looking at the battlefield in bewilderment, completely confused as to what was going on. They were even a little embarrassed. It seemed like dozens of people came out just to show off. And those 5 people were high up, letting them look up to them. There were also a few militants who were excited to watch and asked Roni to let them go deep into the battlefield and enter He-Chen's domain to kill the monsters. Roni pouted. I really want you to go, but they don't want you. She had made this request to He-Chen before, but He-Chen rejected it directly. When she thought about it, she became sulky. What a cheapskate. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.